What is the easiest weapon type to master in Outward? This question will vary person to person, but for me, I think the Greathammer is a strong contender. Big damage, high impact, and best of all, you can send enemies flying with some sweet ragdolls. So let's attempt to beat hardcore Outward using only the biggest hammers we can find. Nah, that sounds way too easy. Let's instead beat hardcore Outward using only the Challenger Greathammer. Don't know what that is? This is an endgame item crafted using materials dropped from the hidden arena bosses. It isn't really used by many people because it actually buffs the enemy as you hit them. After about 3 hits, your opponent will be granted 20% more physical damage and 20% more impact. That's right, folks. Today, we're going to attempt the ultimate challenge run in Outward Definitive Edition. Can we beat the game without dying, while also buffing every monster that stands in our way? About time we find out. Alrighty, let's get down to business. We select Hardcore, granting us a 20% chance of character deletion anytime we are defeated. Ragnar is our warrior name for such a barbaric playstyle, and of course we select a legacy containing our weapon of choice, along with 3 other goodies I think will help us out. On the island, we run around gathering everything there is to find, avoiding the hyenas as we don't exactly have a way to fight back at the moment. After waking up in town, I got called a trog spawn and continued looting anything that isn't nailed down. Reese's own personal chest doesn't let me down yet again, offering me a fancy hat. After purchasing the fitness skill for extra health, the steady arm skill for increased impact resistance, we pay for a nomad backpack and speak with Burak at the gate. With a pickaxe equipped, he will teach us Juggernaut, an insanely powerful Greathammer attack that makes you immovable for several seconds and instantly inflicts confusion. If only we could use it, as again, this is Challenger Greathammer only. No substitutes allowed. Leaving through Sirocco's storage, we heal up Michael Aberdeen for a tribal favor using extreme levels of stealth. Our first power coil presents itself in a supply cache, then back in Sirocco, Risa gives me back my own house. How kind of you. Don't forget to activate the main quest by speaking with Oliel, Yazan, and once again Risa before heading over to Conflux Mountain. You can mine out a few mana reserves here in hope of getting Hackmanite. The stuff sells well. Oh, and also we're here for something a little out of the ordinary. Let's see, where is it? Ah, here we go. Roll off the edge onto this small beam, and then walk up the spiral. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is what's called the compass puzzle. To get it started, you need to head to the top of this spiral and walk north. There is an invisible walkway that will keep you from falling. Pulling out a campfire can help you stay in line as it turns red when you go off the path. Is this nerve-wracking and hardcore? For sure. One wrong turn and that's a, 800-foot drop I might never come back from. Travel far enough and it teleports us back safely onto the mountain. Step 1 of 4 completed. Since we're here, I stopped off in the Blue Chamber tunnels, running past every trog in existence. At the ley line, I give up some of my health and stamina for 1 point in mana. Just enough to learn Spark, Reveal Soul, and pay 50 silver for the Cool boon. Then I scoured every inch of Chersonese for the other supply caches. Just my luck to get a power coil in the very first one and then never get a second. No Mafino's trading backpack for me, I suppose. Time to make our way over into Hallowed Marsh. The Wandering Trader has perfect loot for a Chakram run. Maybe next time, buddy. We make our way up the monstrous-sized tree dead center of the swamp. Being very careful to avoid the alpha Tonosaur that guards this cliffside, we're looking for any way to climb up the roots here. Technically, there is a set invisible path to follow, but instead we're just gonna Skyrim horse our way up to the next flower. Aim north, pull out the campfire, and get to walking. So how you guys been? Enjoying the chill, swampy air? Pretty sure I said I would never do this in hardcore because of the obvious risk, but here we are. The things I'll do for content, I swear. The teleport unfortunately put me in direct line of sight of that alpha, but using my elite parkour skills, we can lose him before we lose a limb. Hey, look at this, a second power coil from a swamp cache. What are the odds? Too bad I'm not in Chersonese anymore, you useless hunka. The trader had similar loot again, so I thought it best to purchase a pair of Master Trader boots. 15% extra movement speed should do me well in the Spire of Light, home of the Lightmender and his army of lightning minions. Don't worry, we're running past all of them. Pull this lever under a bridge, unlock the elevator system, pull a lever hidden over in this corner, teleport up and pull the lever behind this magic contraption. Say hi to the Gold Lich, everybody, as we pull another small lever behind his throne. This all opens up the secondary entrance to his spire, where we can pull yet another lever, portal up, and you guessed it, pull another lever. Yeah, Outward does love its lever puzzles, you can't lie about that. With all that done, we can access the secret vault protected by 2 dangerous enemies. Luckily, they were downstairs just long enough for me to snag my Challenger Greathammer from the legacy chest. And there you go, our weapon of choice for this run. Very high physical damage, massive impact, okay attack speed, and insane durability. Oh yeah, and it buffs our enemies, but for now, let's focus on the positive. In Enmerker Forest, we can test it out really quick. Oh, okay, this thing is, it's pretty good. Being a meteor chained onto a hot and glowing rod while also dripping blood constantly. She's a glorious weapon if I ever saw one. We make our way to the back of this forest, speaking with a friendly Immaculate. Ask for equipment, and we get the Master Trader Garb. The chest piece and boots together make us really fast, and greatly decrease all of our stamina costs as well, which if you know me, you know that's really all I care about. At the Cabal Wind Temple, there's a small invisible ledge unlocked by our puzzle shenanigans in both other regions. Just be sure to avoid the Immaculate as you climb up. At the center column, we pull out our campfire for a 3rd time, and get to walking. You might be wondering, is this some sort of a cheat or maybe a mod? Nope, not at all. This is an in-game mechanic that the Outward community came together and solved back when the game released. If you manage to complete the dangerous puzzle, then, well, I don't want to spoil the fun, but let's just say it's a nice reward waiting for you at the end. Somehow, I haven't fallen from doing this yet. Let's hope that record stays unblemished, shall we? We haven't taken enough risk yet, I don't think. Why not stop off at the Manticore's lair? Very rare to see the Royal Manticore guarding it so closely, but with a little stealth, we can remain undetected. Thing is, once inside this cave, we can't rely on our stealth anymore. One full-grown Manticore prowls just below the ramp. I buff up with my limited supplies, relying on a single fire varnish I had saved just for this occasion. Here's the thing about Greathammers. They have one of the most useful special attacks of any weapon type. A single press activates a shove that deals almost half impact of even the most powerful monsters. It's a ridiculous amount for just one attack. Problem is, this attack has no range whatsoever, making it very easy for Manticores in particular to backstep away from it. The amount of damage I took was worrisome to say the least, but all I wanted was for burning to be applied anyway. Once that's on, I can play the waiting game. That is, until I hit him with the big old Juggernaut, and it's nighty-night for the toothy beast. Okay, I must admit my palms are a little sweaty after all that. Even with all my experience in this game, fighting a Manticore with basically no armor isn't exactly a vacation. There are traps in this small hallway, so I pulled as many trogs out as I could to deal with them one by one. Are you starting to see why Juggernaut is such a powerhouse of a skill? Ah man, I gotta tell you, I love Greathammers. Crap. Well, this is awkward. I just realized I don't have an emerald. That's kind of important for this cave. Guess we're going all the way back up to the temple for that Immaculate. Oh boy, this is what I was afraid of. Immaculates, as I expected, are the Greathammer's biggest nemesis. They are the tallest enemy type in the game that can block, backstep, and hit faster than I can at any time. This means it's far too easy to just miss one of my shoves, leaving me very vulnerable. Them blocking also means my highest hitting skills can be completely negated at random, which quickly depletes my stamina. Confusion does make him far less of a problem if I make use of combos at least, so that's good news. Okay, come on, please have an emerald, and he doesn't have one. 9 times out of 10 he drops one, but no, not this time. On my way to Berg, I mined here and there for the lucky drop, but iron nodes were particularly unhelpful as well, when at random, a palladium node dropped of all things an emerald. I don't even remember these things having gems, but heck, that's kinda perfect. Back to the lair we go. Some more Troggy boys had to be dealt with, as deeper in is one of their dens after all. Why they ever decided to make camp where a Manticore lives, no one really knows the answer to. After dispatching the many gangly cretins, we can walk down a ritualistic room and insert that emerald into a locked door, opening up access to the Trog execution room where we can collect Zorn's hunting backpack. 85 capacity, has spikes on the back that look really cool, and best of all, the thing grants negative 10% stamina cost while equipped. Took me some work to get this beauty, but boy am I glad to have it. I think I'll leave this in here for those of you who hate beast golems. Bonk them a few times, add in Juggernaut, and confusion makes them a complete joke. Let's just hope sword golems go down just as easily. Since we haven't been around the world enough already, I make my way into the Abrasar Desert. In the center of these sand dunes lies Stone Titan Caves. An ancient statue popping up out of the sand can be climbed if you know where to look. Pretty much just hug the left side of the spear, and there's an invisible walkway you can use to get to the top. Once there, you know the drill. Face north with your campfire and get to hiking. I've gotta say, seeing the game from this point of view is rather unique. I mean, you can literally see the entirety of each region from these points. And with that, the compass puzzle is completed. Well, almost completed, that is. If we now decide to make our way into Levant and into the palace, there's a ramp we can take to the left of the thrones. You can actually always get up here, but the wooden bridge connecting across is only accessible if you walk across all 4 invisible walkways. On the other side is a secret room, and in that room is a massive pile of 100 gold bars. That is a ton of free money for us to work with. Well, not entirely free, but still, we are effectively rich. Also, there's a bearded lady dancing near one large golden egg. Never have understood this part of the puzzle, and I really don't think we're meant to. Just look on in confusion and enjoy the money. With that part of our adventure all wrapped up, it's time to spend our reward on some upgrades. Smooth the Tailor sells me the Worm Boon for fire defense. Passives from the Mercenary Trainer can be purchased for lower heavy armor negatives and increased equipment repairing speed. In the slums, we can accept our first of 3 full skill trees, this one being Rogue Engineer. Sweep Kick fully staggers confused enemies, which is very easy to use alongside Juggernaut. The Breakthrough lowers the stamina cost of our dodges by 50% and allows us to dodge unimpeded with any backpack equipped. Usually you would want to take a backpack off before combat, for those who don't know. This means our backpack never comes off and we get to keep the -10 stamina boost it provides at all times. Lastly, I grabbed Stealth Training so enemies don't see us as easily. It's the only option we can really use, although not too important. Surprisingly very effective at avoiding group encounters, though I would only learn that much later. And now that I can waste all the money I want, we speak with the Caravaner and travel over to Harmattan. The main reason I came here was to purchase Efficiency for 25 extra stamina points. Metabolic Purge is nice to have in corruption areas, so we also grabbed that along with the Nightmares passive from Hexmage. This, I am convinced, only benefits you, even though it reads like it should hurt stamina-heavy builds. After sleeping at the inn for many moons, the Caravaner was finally traveling back to Monsoon. Blessed can be bought from Mofat, which I can't forget about. We purchased the only tent I ever use, that being the Luxury Tent, granting -20% stamina cost after sleeping inside. Now for our second full skill tree, Warrior Monk. Slow metabolism will help lower our food requirement. Brace is the best counter/skill in the game. Focus offers us more physical damage. The passive grants +40 stamina, so we really have a lot to work with. Master of Motion ups all our resistances by 10 if the Discipline boon is active. This is important for defense. And at the top, we grab Counter Strike, offering a high damaging counter if we can manage to time it correctly. The cook sells us ingredients for 12 marshmallow tartines, and we book it back on over to Enmerker Forest. In Berg, we can purchase the Mist boon along with our third and final full skill tree, that being Rune Sage. It's important to note here that the 4 rune symbols can be combined to create different effects, of which we will only ever use 1 to buff ourselves. The passive grants us 40 extra mana, and with Arcane Syntax and Runic Prefix, our runic spells will be greatly buffed. As I make my way into the Vigil Pylon here, let's explain a few things. So this is the 4th run in a series of hardcore challenges I've done, and I just now realized that in all 3 of the first runs, I took Cabal Hermit as my skill tree. It's so good I took it out of instinct to make those builds work. Well, as an additional personal challenge for this playthrough, I decided to make what's called a quality of life build, purposefully staying away from Cabal Hermit. Rogue Engineer will help us keep our stamina costs very low for fluid dodges, even during longer fights. Warrior Monk offers us our most useful attack skills while granting defense if we're buffed. Then we have Rune Sage, which I took specifically for a buff called Runic Protection. With the passive I chose, we can use blue and then purple runes to be granted +10 to all elemental defense, plus 20 physical resistance and plus 3 protection. This single buff is so strong that we grabbed the entire skill tree just for it. Not to mention we get Runic Lantern, which is fun for a lot more lighting. We're gonna have a highly defensive build with near physical immunity. Our elemental defenses should be around 50% for the entire playthrough as long as we prepare before each fight. The one problem with all of this is group fights. We don't have a single skill that can deal with groups effectively, meaning we need to play smart and avoid those situations at all costs. If we happen to be forced into them, well, let's just hope I know what I'm doing. After teleporting around in the correct pattern, we're able to take out the dangerous duo in this tower, while only almost dying. Still one of the trickiest encounters in this game, I gotta tell ya. Inside the legacy chest hidden here, we collect a pair of orichalcum boots. You place in black plate boots on a different character and they are upgraded to these. Great physical defense, and it ups our cold weather resistance. Can't complain about that part. Again, beast golems are going down hard for me. I don't think I've ever seen this many of them in the forest, but at least it's a sight to behold. What the heck? There's another one. Guess they're trying to foreshadow to the audience which faction I'm taking. Hint, hint. Back in the desert, we make our way to a cave called the Slide. Cactus fruit is vital for surviving this heat. I must have grabbed 6 or 7 of them on the way. Inside, we activate our combos on this praying mantis, also getting to see what Counter-Strike is like. Ooh, this one's a beauty. Completely negate an enemy attack and retaliate with one mega slam down. A magnificent sight to behold. I actually for once remembered to grab the ornate chest before lowering the water, and it had a hound mask for 10% more physical damage. Kind of had to tank most hits from these desert bandits as my hammer is not nearly as fast as I would like. It's not bad at all, no, but slow enough to make fights against fast sword fighters look less than pretty. Down in a dark room, we find piles of mutilated corpses behind one shell horror behemoth. My 4 main attack skills are Sweep Kick, Juggernaut, Brace, and Counter-Strike. Juggernaut really makes this run what it is, or really makes Greathammers what they are. 100% confusion buildup lets you stagger any enemy twice as easily. The other 3 skills are there to support my very defensive playstyle by constantly keeping monsters reeling backwards. Once this hidden lever is pulled, we can open up our 3rd legacy chest for an orichalcum helmet. This one is a legacy upgrade of the black plate helm, having very high physical defenses. Somehow, in all of my trips to Berg so far, I had forgotten to purchase the Enrage skill. Extra impact is something I can't say no to, so with that in hand, it's time to acquire 2 more important items for the build. In Chersonese, it was just the very end of a snowy season, lucky for me, letting me easily make my way to the Voltaic Hatchery. The lightning enemies here gave me my first sneak peek into how powerful extra stealth actually is. I don't often play stealthy per se in Outward, but it does seem you can bring down opponents almost before they even know you're there. Exceptionally cool when it sets up epic Juggernaut hits. The cannon golem was highly resistant since I am hitting with mostly physical damage at the moment. We really need to invest in varnishes for some of the stronger enemies, or heck, maybe even a strong enchant could do the trick. No, your eyes do not deceive you. Stealth is so broken that some enemies let you walk directly in front of them with no reaction at all. This is rare, at least for it to look this extreme, but you can somewhat rely on it to give you good openings. Well, here's what one brick wall fighting another brick wall looks like. He can't even touch me because my stagger is truly ridiculous, but I also can't hurt him because a poison rag isn't enough dark damage to really exploit his weakness. Also, because I have so much stamina, what was it Captain America said? I can do this all day. Ultimately, it seems the Juggernaut skill has such a high damage multiplier that it would do most of the damage. Just wait about every 20 seconds to affect him in any way. Dude, you know what? Honestly, this is the stuff I love about this game. Getting a unique mini-boss stuck in a corner and more or less taunting him for 5 minutes straight is one heck of a good time. Well, I don't want to ruin that audience retention rate, so ta-da, he's dead. Using some more sneaky power, we can demolish everything else in this cave, pulling 1, 2, and 3 small levers scattered around the cave system. Juggernaut took care of extra mantis shrimps as we make our way back up where the mini-boss died. With each lever pulled, that magical bubble is now gone, revealing a special item, the Light Mender's Lexicon. Unlike the basic one I'd purchased at a shop, this one grants negative 5% mana cost when equipped, which in the grand scheme of things really isn't anything, and probably wasn't worth all this work. But consider it one of those I had to have it situations. Making my way to Vendaval Fortress, I'm now realizing one minute problem with this playthrough. There were so many epic fights I took that sadly, you won't get to see them all. I mean, Greathammers just create the best clips, and man do I have to cut out over half of them. Especially against the humans, you don't really ever give them a fair shot. Like, ever. After the preparations have been made, Croc's time is up. Hit this man so hard that he flew onto the table there. The pesky guards didn't last much longer as we scurry up to Belira the Witch. She actually managed to use her magic effectively this time, as I just could not hit her before she would send out ice or lightning at me. Better to first deal with the two warriors protecting her, as the guardrail would block anything else from getting to me. They went down faster than I expected for heavily armored fighters. Then after failing a really cool block, a mere 2 hits conked her into the vegetable tray over there. Okay, it's probably like spell ingredients or something, but come on, vegetable tray, it's pretty funny. You gotta let me have some fun here. Groups are trouble, but groups aren't trouble when they are people with machetes who deal hardly any damage. And also if they happen to get clocked in 2 or 3 hits. No, let's get serious here and compete against Rospa. Stealth OP? Please nerf? The archers hardly noticed me, so it's almost entirely a 1v1, which Rospa typically doesn't do well in. Check out how much stagger resist you really get with Juggernaut. It almost is like having Havel armor levels of poise in Dark Souls 1. Become immovable, as you greatly move anything from your path. On my way back to town, I stopped by our friendly Immaculate once again to this time ask for power. With Possessed, we officially have all the elemental boons. Several pearl birds fall as no mask appears anywhere in sight. Burak offers me the town key for defeating those pesky bandits. I responsibly use it to steal loot from the town hall chest, which was kind of worth it, I guess. And then in Sierzo's storage, we can now unlock the 4th legacy chest in which I have placed a single piece of Tsar armor. Oh yeah, people. The tankiest, most big boy chest piece you can get your hands on is mine at last. That 40 fire defense means we're basically immune to red damage when buffed. And now I think we're ready to get this run started. Ah, are you kidding me? I did it again, didn't I? Played half the game and built an entire build before actually starting any quests. Well, this is hardcore after all, so you can hardly blame me. Paying for a trip over to Harmattan, it's here we will begin our faction quest. Speaking with the recruiter, she explains that Sorabor is the greatest house of learning and intelligence in the land of Arai. They basically own the entire trading network between each town. We are unable to sign up, however, as our blood price makes things more complicated. We will first need to get approval from one of the academic administrators. But since we are the only surviving member in our family, this debt is not so easily forgotten. Gregory Turnbull is more than willing to become our sponsor after finding out we personally know his sister-in-law Helen, who lives in Sirocco. All I need to do is become a mage, which I am already one step ahead of. With a sponsor backing us, we can speak with the headmaster and join the Sorabor Academy faction. Purchasing a house for 500 silver grants me a place to store all my gear and sleep when needed. Important because we then purchase a power coil so that we have 3 in total. We can insert them into a broken golem lying in town, activating its connection to the Forge Master, an ancient enemy who will arise in 100 days to wipe Harmattan out of existence. After his big speech is done, we touch the rune imprinted on said golem, gaining access to the train dungeon and beginning the Rust and Vengeance questline. We've got 3 days before our faction quest is ready to give us work, and I thought it would be interesting to do the DLC content before the base game, considering this is the one faction you can easily do that with, since both are in the Antique Plateau region. After crushing a sword golem, we make our way to the old theater area. 2 incredibly powerful Scourge monsters reside here. Thankfully, you can split them up. One interesting aspect of the Counter-Strike skill you may notice from time to time is it behaves kind of strangely. It is a counter, requiring an enemy to hit you just as or slightly after you press the skill. Thing is, most enemies can keep attacking after the counter. Problematic, except you become completely immune after a successful counter. Any damage from that enemy is negated while you carry out the strike, and it can look really odd as time is slowed down when you're hit. But ultimately, this makes Counter-Strike even more useful as it can't be interrupted. The entire idea here is we absolutely refuse to back down, which so far seems to be working exactly as planned. Near those two monstrosities is a back door leading into the ancient foundry. A broken golem on the side kindly lent me a key we can use to delve deeper into the factory. Several more golems block my path, but these are all weaker versions that have not stood the passing of time. A warehouse key is mine to claim as many more ancient golems try to stop me. For those who don't know, this train dungeon is part of an old system of tunnels that was created to manufacture golems. They would use these golems to fight back against the Scourge, or green horror monsters who invaded the land. Now the mechanical contraptions lie in ruin as their Forge Master begins to take control over them once again. He was locked away to prevent golems from turning on the people of Harmattan, but something has freed him. Our goal is to find out what, and while we have 100 days to do so, I'm betting we can do it in about 3. Sounds kinda silly, I know, but let's see how close I can get, shall we? A special lightning dancer blocks my way to the next train, a troublesome foe who was given some crazy amount of reach with his floating swords. I believe I adequately put him in his place, even though all I had for a weapon buff was an ice rag. Whatever works, I suppose. The destroyed test chambers was my next stop. This area is known for its intense weather conditions, of which I merely yawn at, because dang, this orichalcum armor is awesome. 55 cold weather defense with some of my foods taken. Elementals are usually a difficult foe to face as they relentlessly fire out elemental damage. I found that rushing them and eating some of the damage was an optimal strategy. With good placement, you can sometimes swing wide enough to hit multiple targets even, although it's definitely not common if your enemies aren't pure melee focused. Oh look, they had 2 ice particles. A rare enough drop to mention. The liquid-cooled golem guards the elevator system here. He was keen on exploding me with frost, but for the most part, he didn't really get to try much at all. As long as I wait for his ice spikes to be sent out, there's a massive window that Juggernaut can exploit. Nothing much to speak of after that. With the key, we can open up to another sword golem. These guys should in theory be trouble, since they can weaken you to physical and get a large boost to physical as we hit them. But impact resistance is also their weakness, and it lets you block and retaliate faster than they could spring into action. Up the elevator we go, now into a very hot section of the dungeon. Czar armor just so happens to have really high hot weather defense, so we can mostly ignore that mechanic as well. Isn't it just truly beautiful to see a build fully come together and completely negate game mechanics? Ah yes, it is truly a thing of beauty. Pulling the lever opens up access to a large group of trogs. Try as I might, that confusion could not be avoided. I mean seriously, that's a bit much on the tracking, guys. Come on, what is this thing, heat-seeking? Just for that, you get a big conk on the head. Send this guy flying, shove his brother over, and collect a train key A. Taking this back down to the cold area, we interact with a console opening up more tracks leading to other dungeons. We want to reach the manufacturing facility. All things considered, it's a minor area to explore, as most enemies can be dealt with in 2 seconds flat. The greater grotesque is here though. Another unique who got the sit-down treatment. Worked like a charm, until I got greedy and went for the kill at what most would call the wrong moment. That's why we keep antidotes and purity potions on us at all times. Some of the corruption curing potions are expensive, but when you have 100 gold graciously handed to you, there isn't much you can't buy. After a glorious display of Scourge destruction, we collect Gemstone Key C and head outside. At the end of the bridge, we can let down a rope which will be useful for later. Turns out durability is kind of an issue with this hammer, as both of our attack skills use crazy amounts of the stuff when activated. Actually, this is an easy fix by plopping down a tent when needed. But I'd been going for some time without resting at this point. While collecting Perpkins, I noticed the red flame was active. Perpkins, when cooked, increase how much impact you deal. It's a very strong buff that trivializes enemies, although not easy to keep on hand as they can rot fast. For a second, I thought about engaging with the double sword golem encounter. After my stealth activated 100 times over in the face of death, I remember many a time this fight went poorly for me. So I retreated. Instead, we run around that spot. Yes, I am a coward, but those guys are scary. The fire elemental was actually really close and easy to find. Do I need the particles? Not particularly, but to tell you the truth, I think I was just having too much fun fighting stuff at the time. Rare items in hand, we gather several more Perpkins that some golems were protecting and book it back to town. The corrupted clock tower sits in the center of this antique plateau region. I made a quick stop there to see if I could get tourmaline that would be needed later on. Only a few golems remain here. With 2 beast golems going down easier than they ever have, it's somewhat important that I explain why I wait for enemies to stand back up before attacking. Specifically with Juggernaut, that attack will deal enough stagger to reel back enemies. However, enemies are completely immune to stagger damage when they are downed, and while they're getting back up. If you time it perfectly, you can hit them just as that stagger immunity breaks, but also still while they can't move, looping them into an infinite knockdown pattern. This works really well on most enemies unless they have a secondary way to escape. Sword golems, Taunosaurs, and a few other enemies can backstep out of their knockdown, so it really depends on the enemy and timing is everything. Not that it's completely necessary to win fights, but it does make them look much cleaner and helps to make sure you aren't wasting a skill's full potential. By the way, that's Runic Protection's effect you see there. Those like floating runic symbols around me. Nice touch to the buff. Those weren't always in the game, I don't believe, and they make you feel more like a mystical warrior of the runic arts. Well, I took almost no damage and got 1 thing of tourmaline. Not exactly the worst side adventure I've ever been on. Using the key we found earlier, the warehouse can now be accessed. The highly corrupted storage facility filled to the brim with immaculates. Seriously, there are more of these tall fellows here than anywhere else in the land of Arai. Normally, this is fine, but for big hammers, those quick movements just do not play nicely for us. As long as you can take them down in time, it's no problem to take some damage, because they have amazing loot. Most often, each will drop the large health, stamina, and mana potions. They're also a primary source for varnishes, as each can give you 2 at a time. For the duo immaculates, I attempted to use my stealth advantage and lure one away from the other. Seemed like this was going to work for a second there, but no, his head swiveled over to look at me the second his buddy engaged. My backup plan was to set both on fire and play the waiting game. That was until I pulled off the greatest combo sequence in history. 2 skills back to back hit both targets. After that, the guys were so embarrassed they practically gave up. Well, that's one big worry out of my mind. Kind of expected to struggle here, not gonna lie. Something interesting about the whole buff enemies part of this weapon, I sort of circumvented that problem altogether. Turns out, with this armor set and my passive buffs together, I get a consistent resistance of about 90 some physical resistance. On top of physical protection, only elemental damage does anything at all to me. That is, except I later remembered that Gaberry Wine provides an additional 15% physical resistance, meaning anytime I feel like it, complete immunity to physical damage is more than possible. It's actually only a 3-step process. Now, the impact is another thing, however. Providing enemies with impact bonuses can really mess up my blocks if I'm not careful. And also, that's only if I fully buff. Get caught with my pants down, so to speak, and it's a completely different story. At the MK Golem, we build him with Obsidian Scourge Repair Matrix for I think higher health regen. Drilling Sword, which is a tough one, but I think I can manage. And Corruption Vents, because they don't really matter at all. Mr. Big Bad MK Golem here is known to be quite the obstacle. His high physical resistance, fast damage, and sheer size means any mistake could cost you. Our powerful shove doesn't seem to always reach him, which drastically reduced how fast I could stop his attacks. But then again, I had picked those Perpkins earlier for a reason. The extra impact provided along with an ethereal varnish brought him to his knees, that I am now realizing he doesn't even have. Poor analogies aside, these spinning swords I've often been afraid of might as well have been mere twigs whistling in the wind. As the metallic monstrosity clatters to the ground, the Forge Master's voice rings out in anger. We now only have 60 days before Harmattan is destroyed. Of course that is unless we find him way before then. Pick up Gemstone Key A, beat down a few more Immaculates because they truly have infested this place, and back on the train we now travel over to the crumbling loading docks. After beating down what felt like 200 robots, we can find a key for the elevator and reactivate the system with one of the consoles. Enjoy the peaceful ride up, la-dee-da-dee-da, then enjoy the fact that having passive stealth prevents enemies from ganging up on you that were probably supposed to. By the way, I think this hammer is longer than most of the other ones. Might just be me, but the reach seems abnormally long compared to other hammers I've used. Again, this could just be me seeing things, but maybe that's another advantage for it. The advanced sword golem who has my next key really didn't stand a chance. I should probably mention I have beaten the entire game with this weapon type before, before. If that wasn't somewhat clear already, I do know the combos and attack sets rather well by now. Another elevator experience with harmonious music. Do-do-do-do. After all that, it's time to take a nap. Gotta repair my weapon after all, plus who goes into combat with less than max stamina? The corrupted monster before me is actually what woke up the Forge Master. He somehow made his way in here and started breaking things, which reactivated the Forge Master's defense protocols originally made for protecting Harmattan. Too bad for us, he kinda realized that his own people had sealed him away for many years in a prison. So now the world's greatest line of defense against the Scourge outbreak is our mortal enemy. Something we'll have to worry about later, as this abomination needs put down no matter what. Things went my way, as the lightning on our hammer was really shocking the beast to his core. This guy actually splits his backpack off when under half HP, turning into a secondary enemy you need to worry about. One of the coolest fights just for that idea right there, especially since the floating eyeball tentacle monster looks very eerie, kinda like a beholder from D&D, although not exactly the same design concept. Probably should not have hit Juggernaut when I did, since one cloud of corruption exploded on top of me, but with the big giant down, this creepy looking fellow doesn't stand a chance. The Forge Master echoes through these halls once again. We only have 60 days left to stop his plans. Do I look worried to you? No, seriously, do I look worried? Because really I'm not, but this guy won't get off my case about it. Gemstone Key D is now free for us to grab. Usually I leave this dungeon through the top, but there's actually a separate set of elevators used to get back to the train. After dealing with some forge golems, the levers here bring up a platform. This is only accessible after the green monster's defeat, as him dying removes corruption from the area. It travels all the way down much quicker than you could have ever walked back the normal way. The train can take us over to a large compromised mana station. This was where mana was converted into power for the trains, golems, and other experiments being worked on down here. Some little fellows with range magic were giving me the runaround. Once I eventually managed to take them all down, the elemental dropped a purifying quartz, which is pretty darn rare and definitely something I need for enchanting. Up an elevator we go to collect the mana transfer key. Then we go down a set of stairs to beat up some more Scourge. Shell horrors were not a crazy difficulty spike or anything for me, but it was surprising to see they could stand their ground much longer than most other monsters. They too have some of the coolest enemy designs I've ever seen. All of the Scourge really do look menacing, yet awesome at the same time. Except for the little guys that spray green corruption everywhere. Those guys are ugly and they suck. This elemental dropped nothing at all, but at least I haven't caught the Leywilt disease as of yet. That's been pretty nice. A chromatic arcane elemental definitely has my attention. Hey, question, where's my laser at? Come on, they added a huge new enemy type with this epic attack and then didn't give one to the player? Disgraceful. For real though, that would have been an awesome magic ability to have included. With the console reactivated, we make our way up to the corrupted part of this facility. Funny to think that this is one of the only locations to have shell horrors at all in this region. An entire DLC revolving around the Scourge, and the most common variant is almost non-existent. Several new variants pop up instead, which makes me think the shell horrors mostly died off to the golems. Then all the slightly more advanced Scourge found ways to survive by basically hiding away. Or maybe I'm reading way too far into this and they just wanted us to fight different types of monsters. Who's to know? Gemstone Key B is ours after a cumbersome battle, which means the end is nigh for our mechanical overlord. Stopping off in town to first regroup, I managed to separate the two sword golems who'd scared me off before. On their own, I can handle them with ease. It's together I don't stand a chance. And apparently this one got stuck behind the outer wall as his friend kept walking on through. They are just golems after all, not the brightest bulbs in the box. With all the proper materials now in our possession, we might as well do some enchanting. Impending doom upon Harmattan, that can wait. It's still only been like one day after all. I work fast, ladies and gentlemen. I work fast. Well, the enchantments we are looking for go on our helmet and boots. Both require that the current region's wind altar be activated. This means that after walking down towards the mana lake and trashing some Buzu, I could turn on the power of wind magic. Oh hey look, it's a rock. Nope, not a rock, just a big dead bug. The alchemist sells one enchanting table and 4 pillars for pretty cheap, honestly. At an alchemy kit, we can use Dreamer's Root and a light particle to craft Admiral Incense. This can be combined with tourmaline, a purifying quartz, and another light particle for Luna Incense. The massive stroke of luck for these enchants is both only require 2 incense pillars to be active, meaning only one course we found will get us both enchantments. That doesn't happen often. With our table set up, we slot in our helmet and buff it with Primal Wind, adding 10% ethereal damage and plus 10% impact. Yeah, as if we didn't do enough impact already, I know. And for the boots, the same exact setup buffs them with Guidance of Wind, adding plus 14% movement speed. This more or less makes up for the high negative speed Zar armor weighs you down with. That's all we can do for now, so after crafting up 8 spirit varnishes at an alchemy kit, I headed back to the train through one location we haven't cleared out yet. The living quarters. What I found funny about all this is usually I start Rust and Vengeance through this area. It's by far the easiest to clear, with mainly humans and trogs going up against you. A Kazite Admiral does reside here along with 2 thieves assisting him. Somehow I managed to roll out of this counter, which originally I thought was impossible. While my damage isn't exactly great against this hefty armor, wild swinging carried me through. Not having to drop your backpack all the time, wow, what a game changer. Rogue Engineer isn't a skill tree I take all the time because it revolves more around daggers, but call it a breath of fresh air. Helps always having your items on hand too. No need to stop mid-combat and sort through for health potions. Stopping off for the Trog key, I'm not sure we're gonna really need it this go around. Won't know until later on, of course, as I definitely don't need that secret merchant now. Do I really need to comment much on the Trogs? They went down without hassle, letting us finally reach the train. Off to the Forgotten Research Laboratory. There isn't anything here to explore initially, as it's the location our enemy the Forge Master has been sealed in. Scourge attempt to make their way in, even though it's filled with robots who are more than capable of taking them down. Not a good plan if you ask me. Slot all 4 keys, activating 1 titanium door. Let the war begin. Not only are we faced up against Scourge at every turn, but golems want to cut us down as well. We are stepping into a battle zone where the enemy of my enemy is still my enemy. No friends to be found in this corrupted place. Ever managed to block a laser before? Well, I have, and it feels about as cool as it looks. Sublime Shells kinda have it all. They look cool, have the most animated attacks in the game, and can backhand you for outlandishly high disrespect. Also, they topple over very quickly to perfect counters. The more spinny Scourge are known to be difficult if you block, since 7 or 8 attacks is a bit much. Didn't seem to faze me at all in this armor though. Then again, Zar items are kinda crazy. With plenty of potions in hand to cure corruption, we breeze through the higher floors, making our way closer and closer to the one in control. Those familiar with this particular room will remember it has 2 beast golems and 2 sword golems that could potentially all attack you at once. I was smart enough to rush one of the lanky fellows down. Gets me the broken lever part and possibly frees up space for what is bound to be a nightmare. Ha! Never mind. How do I keep getting enemies to line up for my big old golf swing? Seriously, this must be the most free wins I've ever been set up with. It's probably my revenge for all those times I got beat up here. The lever is restored, more scrap metal gets put in its place, and even arcane golems are nothing to me. What helped was going for both elementals first. Forget to take them out early and you're asking for a headache. If you ask me, elementals aren't even real. They will literally side with any monster in the world just to fight you personally. Imagine they are your own nightmares manifested through the elements around you. Hard to know if that's canon or not, but in my head, the lore is beginning to write itself. One final opponent stands before us. The Forge Master, the Golem Leader, the Rust Lich. Considering I probably won't be pulling out a lexicon mid-battle, I thought it better to slot health potions on my hotbar. After all, you never can predict when something's gonna go completely off the rails. As per usual, the Rust Lich is a very unique fight for each run of Outward. Defeat several golem minions to break down his protective shield. Once that is done, you only have a few seconds to dish out damage before he pulls it back up, and you go back to square one. Despite my clear disadvantage against groups, our Challenger Hammer's reach kept him at bay. My attacks are unfortunately super slow, leading to only a few normal swings or one big skill activation by the time we get his shield down. This sounds bad, but really it isn't, because only 2 rounds so far and he's under half health. This time I decided to leave one golem alive long enough for me to get closer to the Lich. Almost managed to finish the fight here. If only I had gone for the swing rather than my shove. Of course, this is when everything went haywire. With all of the golems having about 1 HP left, fire explodes all over my screen. After a health potion, I then missed several times, taking some purple mana power to the face. Too bad big health pots don't put out fire. I mean, come on, they count as a drink, but not as a dousing agent? Who's coming up with the rules around here? Don't you tell me I can't pour health juice all over myself to put out fire. It's only logical. Wait patiently for the fool to step down one last time, and it's a swift juggernaut for the win. With his phylactery destroyed, he curses me before fading out of existence. Harmattan is saved. Raoul rewards me with the mediocre particles he thinks are valuable. Psh, I got about 5 of each of those in my chest at this point. And that's all she wrote, folks. Rust and Vengeance is completed. Oh crap, I haven't even done my faction quest yet. Pretty sure I ended up completing the 100-day quest in just under 3 days. Probably the fastest I've ever finished it, at least for a hardcore character. Anyway, time for your afternoon dose of Outward lore. In order to become a participating member of the Academy, I would need to do some busy work for several professors. Erica, Dean of Naturalism, wanted me to gather 2 nightmare mushrooms and deliver them for her. Those are a dime a dozen in the clock tower area just outside town. Platypus Pete can be found waiting near the Poverish Inn. He accepted the mushrooms eagerly. Erica claims this interaction was totally above board and not at all illegal. Too bad we would need to find work like this for an entire year to become an initiate. Yeah, that's way too long of a wait for me. Gregory required a purity potion. Just buy one of those expensive curatives real quick and yay, we did it. Gregory says it will still take months at this rate. Ugh, I need in now, or this blood price is gonna be the death of me. Samuel, the Dean of Engineering, wanted to test ley line water to see if it could be used as fuel. Of course, this meant hiking down to the Mana Lake, not so conveniently at the bottom of this region. Taking such an easy task lightly, as how can I not, after defeating a literal commander of metallic armies. Some random mana mantis scared me half to death. Timed that counter slightly too early, and boy did I pay for it. Now you know why I go into every fight with around 12 buffs. That's not just for show, ladies and gentlemen. Some Buzu prowl around the mana-infused lake. They're a native species that I didn't really have any quarrels with. Didn't stop them from having quarrels with me, however, as 2 of the green beasts seek their doom from my wretched-looking hammer. I fill up a canteen of the sugary water, as well as take 1 sip for myself. Samuel is grateful, although he too suggests I should go take classes or find more work for several months. Everyone keeps mentioning someone named Victor Bertolt who could potentially help me out. No one seems to like him very much, but he sounds like our only option at this point. Victor, the Dean of the Military, is more than happy to help me out of the apprentice level. He claims everyone else likes to exploit the new recruits, since they don't have many options. 2 of his other apprentices have already been sent out on tasks, but the deliveries ended up being more complicated than expected. I am to help Artois retrieve stolen goods from bandits, while Desi needs my help dealing with a mysterious benefactor Victor knows. Off to do some sketchy business. How exciting. In an old abandoned storage, I find Desi injured as a menacing figure looms over her. This is no minor delivery. I'm here to barter with the infamous Butcher of Men, one of the most dangerous Immaculates known for slaying thousands of humans. He cuts open a small gash on his arm, dripping blood into a jar. What the heck does Victor want with Scourge blood? Desi pleads with me to defeat this creature as it cannot be allowed to escape. I'm okay with that plan. If it means I get to fight something cool, you can bet an arm and a leg, I'm all in. Unfortunately, all my buffs ran out while I sat there talking to the beast, leaving me with the most basic increased stamina regen with minor health regen. Not exactly as prepared as I would like to be for a literal Butcher of Men. In fact, he proved to be a much more worthy opponent than even the Rustlich himself. All these backsteps are making me miss every other swing. Makes me wonder how challenging Outward could be if you never used any buffs. I mean, the game is more or less designed around you sucking down 15 potions and munching on 9 different foods before bigger fights. Forget all of that, and what equipment do you think would stand out? Questions without answers, I'm afraid. At least for the time being, that is, as we power swing this dastardly foe out of existence. Desi is ecstatic upon seeing our victory. She's not exactly happy with Victor at the moment, so she heads back to give him an earful. With 1 delivery accounted for, the next was not where I remembered. Antique Plateau is a region filled with courageous warriors. The Wolfgang mercenaries protect Harmattan from danger, while Kazai bandits rob and pillage any who would travel unprotected. One of their encampments encampments is lightly guarded to the east. However, upon clearing them out, I couldn't find any stolen goods. They probably deserved my wrath for something else. Don't feel too bad about this. No, I was actually supposed to go back up to the living quarters entrance. Members of the Four Wind gang have taken Arduous hostage. He is free to go, along with our stolen package, if we deliver 5 sticks of jerky, a water skin, and an iron weapon. Let me think about this for a second. Fat chance on that one. You think I would take down the legendary Immaculate but get scared away by some cowardly bandits? The answer is no. Only the captain put up much of a fight, and even he had no idea how to deflect a meteor sprinting at him. I chose to break open the package we came here for, even though Victor specifically told me not to. Because screw that guy. The delivery contained 2 precious Czar stones that have been forged into bullets. Probably a good time to confront Victor. Something just isn't sitting right about all this. He laughs it off, as if him telling us the tasks would be dangerous was good enough. Desi quits working for him since he almost got her killed. I tried to do the same, but he blackmails me into staying since I still need that pesky blood price paid off. This conversation was long enough that day turned to night, if you couldn't tell. Meaning it's time for me to sleep 3 days straight. I might be forced to stay under Victor's tutelage, but he never specifically stated what I had to do with my time. Back to Victor we go after a well-deserved rest. The Naturalist Division found a special property in the Immaculate's blood. It's possible we could use it to create a new type of power coil that could help allied golems track down Scourge, effectively wiping out the hordes for good while they have nowhere to hide. Victor doesn't trust anyone here to work on this project, so we're sent to Levant to speak with an engineer. He once again reminds us that if we don't perform adequately, our blood price will never be paid off. A real piece of work, this guy. Engineer Orston thinks he can make this new power coil work, but there are several components he will need us to collect first. All the materials are hidden away inside the old electric lab. Considering the place is abandoned, it's become quite dangerous to explore. Mercenaries usually gather stuff there from time to time, but recently some desert bandits have had them all busy. Golems attack us as it seems there are 3 separate groups you can come across. We've got golems built by the citizens of Harmattan who are used as an army to fight the Scourge. You also have wandering golems who were shipped all across the world to help other regions survive what was essentially an apocalypse. And then finally, we have golems who the Rust Lich recovered control over. Without a primary directive, these older models have gone rogue, attacking pretty much anything that moves. And guess who happens to do a lot of moving? In one of the back rooms, we grab several replacement valves from deactivated forge golems. Down a floor, there's some sort of odd machine running that's still producing lightning grease. After collecting some, we have to fight a ghost and collect the power coil behind him. There are actually a few of these lying around this dungeon that we will need for our project. Another ghost blocked my path, as well as a few mantis shrimps, surviving on almost no water down here. As far down as this old lab will go, we unlock a room containing 1 large red crystal. It's protected by 1 fully commissioned golem and is emanating a very dark energy. If I remember correctly, the Great Devourer that once ravaged across Abrasar died above this very lab. As the powerful Scourge blood dripped through various cracks of this building, it seeped into the Mana Stone, corrupting it. We carefully mine off a chunk, throwing it into our bag and backing away very slowly. All the materials should now be acquired, but you know what? I'm not leaving here without my precious coil lantern. Jumping off the elevator back up top, we can dispatch the Thunderbolt Golem. Not much of a threat. Granted, I had to eat 1 hot fireball in order to break him down. Rotate the elevator to access the secret part of this dungeon, and now our sweet coil lantern is open for business. That mantis really didn't want me to have it, but for the sake of leaving my lantern on indefinitely, this was a necessary part of the build. Up we go even further than before to face 3 elite sword golems. The term elite is more of a title than a ranking of their potential skill level. Ethereal damage, which most commonly comes from the use of spirit varnish, is hard to come by. Not a lot of things wield purple magic, though a ton of this stuff was used to not only create but to control mechanical golems. Probably why they're so weak to this stuff. These sleek fencing fanatics look really unique, but are not all that different from regular sword golems. I mainly wanted their swords, as you can craft them together for some serious coin. The ancient Whirlig spear should sell well, and with all 3 elites gone, we can activate the hidden ornate chest system scattered around Abrasar, granting us a beautiful Zarstone and very okayish loot. We can use an old wooden bridge to reach another chest with even less okayish loot. The random giant monk who wanders around Abrasar was cooling off by the oasis. Probably the rarest enemy type of the base game right here. You really almost never fight these outcast monks. Orston is able to produce a working model quickly without much hassle, as we provided him with every optional material. He then asks me to deliver a runic device to Gregory Turnbull since I'm headed back to Harmattan again. The Wolfgang mercenaries who do contract work for Victor have cornered a pack of Immaculates. They suggest testing the new power coils there in hopes of wiping them all out. Upon delivering Gregory his runic frequency doodad, he is distraught to hear of this upcoming battle. Gregory has been working with that same group of Immaculates in hopes of removing the killing urge they can't control. Behind one of the library statues, he's actually been hiding an entire lab where he plans to use a specific runic combination to grant Immaculates free will. Desi is also here working with him. If we can manage to find the right runic combination, it may be possible to gain Immaculate allies, which would have the Scourge forces and leave only the non-intelligent species left to contend with. We could finally end the Scourge War that started out of nowhere so long ago. Gregory vows that if I can save even a single Immaculate from the Wolfgang's plan and bring one here, he will instantly grant us initiate status and remove our blood price. Much better than anything Victor was offering, so I'm totally in. The particular location at which these Immaculates were hiding is up north in a more secluded valley. You've got to get past the local wildlife and travel far back to a forgotten cave. Upon entering, we're met with an army of Immaculates. They don't draw their weapons at this time, but best to keep my wits about me. Making our way to the leader, we begin negotiations. The Wolfgang mercenaries have them paranoid, but I assure them I am here to help. Dialogue options 1, 2, and then 3 give you the desired outcome. We claim that the end of this war benefits everyone. Sorobor has more resources than anyone to make this alliance work. They're worried this is all a ploy to make them weak and easy to defeat, but with enough coaxing, the leader comes to a decision. Gregory is the best chance they have of survival, so we can rely on them to cooperate. But first, we will need to help them escape. The Wolfgang clan is already here and ready to draw blood. As soon as we exit the cave, 3 runic warriors don't hesitate to gun for my head. I guess they don't care to talk about this, being obsessed with Scourge annihilation. And what really should have been expected took me completely by surprise. Wolfgang mercenaries wield magic weapons summoned from runic symbols. Those deal pure magic damage which cuts through all my armor and defenses. I am in a dangerous spot after just 3 seconds of combat. The captain can instantly fire off lightning balls with almost no indication. Thankfully, the 2 lesser members fall before I can be hit again. And the big guy wasn't ready for my perfect counter. Well, that was kind of scary. Good thing I just ticked off an entire army of mercenaries who may or may not have the perfect damage type I struggle against. Surely that won't be an issue in the future. Not a chance. Back in the underground lab, it appears our new Immaculate friend has made his way here safely. He's on edge, but hopes Gregory can indeed cure them. Finally, we are accepted into the Arcane branch as an official member of the Academy. Hardest acceptance process I've ever been a part of. Only almost died like 9 times getting here. While Turnbull gets to work on his research, we are given another 3 days to catch our breath. Time to enter a coma and wake up when I'm needed. Returning to Gregory, he claims to have found a wall filled with unique runes inside the old golem factory. Problem is, other members of Sorobor are going to destroy the wall to block off an abnormal amount of Scourge prowling in that area. Victor could blow up the access point further in, but after our recent activities, he'll try and stop our little ventures any way he can. The Wolfgang clan also wants us to fail since they don't really have any work if we can cure the Immaculates. While Turnbull looks the other way, we are sent to sabotage Harmattan's military. Just don't get caught is the main plan here. Now, we actually have some choices here. 5 different tasks are logged into our quest tab. You must complete several for the sabotage to work, but finish too many and the military might be too weak to defend Harmattan. At least that's what the game wants you to think. We're going to fully destroy every operation, mainly so you guys can see what each is, but also because I hate Victor. Miko, who is in charge of paying the Wolfgang, is willing to mysteriously lose their next payment if we bring her an old ledger lost many years ago. Not too far from town is the old Harmattan basement. Back when the Scourge first appeared, some nobles holed themselves up in this cave hoping to barricade themselves away from the war. As you can see from all the ghosts, that didn't go so well for them. It's also worth mentioning that tons of ghost eyes have been planted, a rare apparition that must spawn from large masses of life going out, so to speak. The ledger sits here on an old bookshelf, so Miko is now willing to stick it to those mercs. In the old warehouse, more enemy Immaculates have moved in, which they're likely part of the Scourge force Victor's worried about. Not really sure why though, because me, myself, and I are army enough to put down anything. Further in the tunnel, we switch off our lantern and sneak over to a depowered beast golem. Wolfgang mercenaries are guarding the depowered machine, and if they see us, the whole sabotage thing gets pinned on Gregory, without a doubt. They seem pretty far into the tunnel though, as we quickly swap the dog golem's power coil with a defective one. Let's make a break for it, shall we? For us to really stick it to the Wolfgang members, we actually need to head towards their main camp. It's on the other side of the Antique Plateau, surrounded by mountain peaks, not all that far from Akazite Camp, which means there are plenty of dangerous monsters lurking along my path as I trudge forward. Maybe build your base, I don't know, slightly closer near the town that you're hired to protect? Just a thought. Usually, as you explore this region, Wolfgang members will be passive, or more accurately, they will be at your side. Bring enemies towards them and they will fight with their lives to help take anything down. Well, during this quest only, they are all hostile, and even the most random patrols of 2 guards you come across can be deadly. Thankfully, the pair seemed more inclined to fight with their swords and didn't range me, because pretty sure that would have been my end. Oh hey, look at that, another fire elemental. Had pretty good luck with these guys so far. That's another 3 particles in my pocket. As threatening as these mercs can be, there's no avoiding a straight up assault on their base. In my own head, I like to think we aren't really killing these guys. Instead, just bonking them into a really deep slumber, of which they will awaken when the Scourge attack. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't really know why I didn't try and sneak my way in. After just a single perfect stealth mission, I threw that all out the window and barged into their main headquarters. There's probably a really low chance you can make it out here without fighting anyway. Several explosives are being kept in this base that will be used to destroy our rune wall. We simply swap the wires around and now they're useless. Do that to the other bomb over here, and the third one can be found back by a few wine barrels. Be very careful not to step on pressure plates recently put in as we escape unseen. It counts as unseen if there's no one left to tell a story. This is just basic common sense, I have to imagine. There was also a secondary platoon of mercs camping on a lookout spot. Every one of my close calls so far has been to these mana swords. I have no idea how much damage they do. Well, the wiki doesn't specifically say, but it hints at them using the runic blade we ourselves can summon with runic magic. The bigger one deals about 40, so I guess they're also buffing up beforehand, as I distinctly remember taking about 60 health damage in one hit. They're all dead now anyway. Oh wait, no, I forgot. They're all peacefully sleeping with giant knots on their heads. Stopping back in town, we need a short break to recraft all our food and potions. Boiled perpkin for the impact, water for stamina, alpha sandwiches for health regen and enrage, tartines for even more stamina, and whatever other odds and ends I could throw together. Hugo Lockwell can handwrite us a letter recommending the tunnel's destruction be delayed. He merely asks for a 300 silver bribe to do so. That's a nice and easy checkmark on our list. Pretty sure there's only one quest left to wrap up, that being to sabotage a Trog tunnel. Throwing some pesticide down the well near their breeding cave will flush them out towards guards, giving us more time. This does mean a long trip back down to the Mana Lake yet again, but there's plenty to fight along the way, keeping me busy. You might have noticed by now that the Sorobor Academy faction is not exactly on the most up and up. They are the elite college of prestige, wizards, and academics. They also have one of the most powerful armies in this land, with Wolfgang members to hire and golems easily constructed from old parts. They're also incapable of getting anything done without lying, stealing, or stabbing each other in the back. Each individual dean leads one of the main educations in Harmattan. None of them really like each other all that much. At least they don't dare trust each other, that's for sure. For us to get anything done, we have to literally break the law while everyone pretends not to notice. Consider them the will do anything for money and power faction. But then again, all I want here is money and power myself, so it's not like we don't fit in. One well sabotaged, we return to Gregory with all 5 quests completed. He scolds us for going overboard and weakening Harmattan too much, but at least the rune wall is safe. He leaves to do his research, granting me Logistics Expert for my efforts, a passive skill that grants me 10% skill cooldown, 5% more movement speed, and an increased pouch size of +5. Very nice to have for long adventures, let me tell you. After regaining my strength with a couple days of relaxation, it appears we are now at the end of our rope. Victor has his advanced golems in full production and can prove we snuck an immaculate into city walls. The headmaster has called a town debate where we will need to defend ourselves against any and all accusations. Basically, we're screwed, because of all the sabotage earlier and Victor hating my guts. There's just simply no convincing any jury of our innocence. Unless, of course, we were to make deals with the very jurors themselves. Bypassing due process altogether, together so Victor's accusations fall on deaf ears. Yes, this is a plan I can get behind. Samuel will defend us if we can bring him 3 mana filters from the transfer station. Erica will defend us if we retrieve some stolen goods from her former associates. Juliet will defend us if we can retrieve a lost photograph in the old theater area. With those 3 backing us, we will have more than enough support. But first, we have to be an errand boy a little while longer. I decide to first make my way to a hanging skeleton where Erica's goods can be found. On the way, I found yet another elemental who dropped 3 more particles. They're all over this playthrough, I can't even make this stuff up. I thought once these 2 bandits were cleared away that the box would be safe to collect. But no, the 4-Wind Gang leader has decided to keep Erica's goods as they apparently can sell for quite a lot. Everything went smoothly after that. Story-wise, it does make sense for you to still be picking on bandits during your faction quest. But this time around, I'm already a lich-slaying knight with access to the most powerful runic arts. Not exactly the easiest prey for such ingrates. With the goods now in our possession, we make our way to... oh crap, there's some Wolfgang members checking in on me. You don't often catch hammer-wielding captains out and about. Using what I call technical skill, I ran around long enough to split both into one-on-one fights. Maybe not the bravest thing one can do, but it is highly effective and somewhat intelligent. A short ways away, we can use the rope we let down some time ago to access the theater. This should usually take a long time to reach, as you must first clear out 2 dungeons, I think, just to get here. But we already did that earlier, and funnily enough, 3 very weak bandits were burning old works of art for the heat. They're not even Kazite bandits, just the lowest peasants seeking shelter. If only they hadn't decided to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The ancient portrait is saved just before it is burned. This is an access point to part of the ancient foundry. We can use it to reach the train system and zip on over to the transfer station. Once again, I leapt into combat underbuffed, as you never expect these minor peons to be of any hindrance. They were a major hindrance. The elemental had high-level aimbot turned on with those light projectiles. The first filter we can snag is just up the main elevator. All 3 are pretty well hidden in areas of this dungeon you almost never need to explore. They do at least give you a clue, as mana mantises have moved into each spot, feeding off the mystical essence in the air, I guess. The second one I remembered being much further in, above the secondary elevators we activated before, which meant I had to break through a shell horror and sublime shell once again. Enemies in Outward all respawn after 7 days, giving you plenty of time to clear out dungeons you like with full success, while also letting you gain their resources and loot drops again if you ever want to come back. Most bigger monsters have high-level potions on them, so I usually engage if I'm able to. Sure enough, there was another mantis hovering around the corrupted zone. However, the filter was nowhere in sight. You have to move further in all the way to the exit. That mantis was basically protecting nothing, which is kind of funny. But then, the third filter eluded me. This was the entire dungeon, and somehow only 2 of them are in my possession. What am I missing here? To be fair, I don't take Sorbor faction that often, but still probably enough to get through quests on my own. Ah, screw it, I gotta check the wiki. And now I feel stupid. The third filter, or more accurately, first filter, is back near the very beginning, right behind the elemental I had trouble with. Walk across some stairs I forgot were even here for the mantis who's barely visible behind some walls. Technically you could see him if you really looked, but they really wanted you to explore for these. I kinda respect it. Good news for us, after handing over all the items to our 3 deans, each promises to have our backs in the now active debate. There's a lot of dialogue here between Victor and the multiple other people standing in front of us. The general summary is, Victor blames everything bad on us. The Scourge activity, an Immaculate being in town, and his Wolfgang members being undermined around every corner. Which, to be fair, is legitimately all true. We definitely did all that stuff. But because we helped out the other deans, and they aren't too fond of Victor, as I mentioned before, all of them say I am an outstanding citizen with an outstanding reputation. Since we killed the Butcher of Men, the Scourge don't have a very strong leadership, so that's another bonus point going our way. But then Victor gets all defensive and claims there's no way to trust the Immaculates after they've been cured. This is when our Immaculate partner steps onto the stage glowing head to toe in runic symbols. Gregory explains that once these runes are placed on an Immaculate, they have complete control over their free will. They no longer hunt down members of the Holy Mission with extreme malice. They can become an independent society of intelligent beings who work with humans to fight back the other Scourge monsters. It also turns out the runes are very easy to apply as they naturally emit an aura that can affect the Scourge over time. Consider them large runic traps that can be placed in each region to pacify those scattered around. In theory, it could pacify other types of Scourge over time as well. Headmaster Raoul is impressed by this research and offers the full support of this academy to our project. That's when Victor blurts out that the horde of Scourge bearing down on us still needs to be dealt with. The Immaculate claims they're hiding in Old Harmattan, and with his support, we will end this war once and for all. We are granted a special Peacemaker's Elixir for our fine work, along with a Czar Stone for finishing the quest perfectly. Drink the potion for plus 20 max health, stamina, and mana. Next stop, Old Harmattan. Upon reaching the entrance, Artois waits outside, badly injured. He had been sent by Victor to secretly place explosives around the battlefield. These would have ensured that all Scourge, pacified or not, did not make it out alive. Thankfully, after seeing the Immaculates defend him from further harm, he didn't go along with the plan. Victor officially has no allies left, and with one of our healing potions, the man should survive. But of course, a great battle lies ahead. This is an epic showdown where all of our allies are finally working together. Kind of, that is. You see, if we still for whatever reason have a grudge on our shoulder against the Wolfgang mercenaries, we can actually stand around watching them fight instead of helping. Should they by chance happen to die, we snatch up all their valuable potions and then kill the monsters ourselves. All's fair when potions are involved, you can quote me on that. The special clubbed beast goes down, dropping a key we can use to move deeper into the ruins. Our new friend has managed to pacify several others loyal to him, making this an almost guaranteed win. I was sadly too late to save one of them, as shell horrors can sometimes be too much for even the most elite warriors. Oh wait, even the friendly Immaculates drop loot. With snow falling, you could almost say this is my Merry Christmas. Goodie bags lying all over the place, free for the taking. Oh wait, I'm supposed to be helping these guys win a war. How about I try my best, but should anyone fall along the way, we don't have to be too upset about it. The area we are currently in hasn't actually been seen by anyone for many years. Old Harmattan was one of the most populated areas that fell when the Scourge first attacked. It is practically one giant tomb, as the people were unprepared for such an event. Thousands died as the production of golems swiftly began in hopes they would be enough to push back the corrupted creatures. Thankfully, golems led by the Forge Master himself were able to successfully save the antique plateau from being completely overrun. Harmattan had to be rebuilt in a separate location though, as this place was too far gone, and too vulnerable for that matter. As the final fight commences, we take part in the greatest team-up imaginable. Two Immaculates stand beside me as we show no mercy. Together, we are an unstoppable force as we embrace the one final opponent, striking him down and emerging victorious. The Ruined Immaculate is grateful for our assistance. He now considers us a friend, and we are always welcome in the new society they will create. Perhaps one day, he will walk among men as easily as we do. He gives us an ancient weapon long protected by his people, the glorious Tsar Bow, which it's not a bleeding meteor on a stick, so I can't use it. But the significance of this is not lost on me. Desi thanks us for saving her a second time. She's excited to work with our new friends and carve out a better future for both our species. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the Sorbor Academy faction quest is completed. The war is over. Harmattan is safe, and I am finally free to explore the world once again. Traveling over to Berg, we are informed that the Three Brothers volcanoes have erupted in Caldera. The people there will need food, shelter, and other supplies if they are to survive such a disaster. Sorobor has the resources to help in this situation, and it's possible our involvement could make for better trade when everything is said and done. Off to exploit other people's misfortunes for our own personal gain. I really am starting to fit in with these conniving tricksters. I mean, legitimate businessmen. Here's a giant I found while walking around. Listen, not all these transitions can be perfect, okay? Sometimes you just gotta watch me clobber a big blue idiot. The path I usually take towards Old Sirocco had one of those pyro horses on it. Since I am a man of habit, there was no way to go around, and he had to get gone. Actually, this build is one of the very few that can't even really be hurt by these guys. Oh look, a pyrite greathammer. Man, this thing is really cool. Basically a group of square rocks fused together, inflicting confusion in a single hit, which is crazy OP, except for any greathammer gets confusion through the Juggernaut skill. Ultimately, kinda useless, but I love the concept. Ambrain is very important to pick up anytime we find some, as it protects against the heat and grants high stamina regen. The Primal Ritualist's hut is only a few steps away, where I can buy Miasmic Tolerance, granting 15% more status resistance. Probably one of the most underrated passives if you ask me. Upon reaching Old Sirocco, we witness what I call a change in leadership, as the place crumbles around us. us. These rebels need somewhere else to rebuild their home, and since I brought resources, they put me in charge of the town's construction. As they all leave for the old quarry, I had one goal in mind. Samples are common enough to find in this stone structure. Not only that, but you can find a variety of goodies like strong potions or weapons that sell well. Plenty of monsters roam the halls for me to face, but all of this was just a side quest. You see, on my last Outward adventure, we discovered a unique method to acquire multiple rare building materials. In fact, on that mage run, I must have fought like 18 or 20 Scarlet Emissaries in total. Maybe even more, which is crazy to think about considering you can only find 3 at a time in Caldera. Which leads me to my reason for coming down here. Are these fiery devils going to be a viable farm once again? Yes. Technically, we deal crazy damage to them that would make each one easier than they usually are. But also, no, because these demons are fast. With my kit of tools, we don't have any mid or long range attacks, and up close, Scarlet Emissaries pose very scary threats. This much risk simply isn't worth taking time and time again. Even one missed block, one incorrectly timed counter, and my health goes down way too low. One of the very few enemies that deals raw damage, they completely ignore all my high defenses. Turns out, actually, this is even worse than that. They only have one blast attack that deals raw damage. However, I read that their melee attacks are designed to ignore 50% of player resistances, regardless of what you're wearing. Near physical immunity? Throw that out the window because it means nothing here. Even with confusion, the hammer can't always swing twice for a stagger before they retaliate. Most of these fiends are avoidable if you know where they show up, so from now on, we choose to go around, or turn back entirely, even if they're guarding one of those precious samples. Over in the old quarry, we get busy with construction. Placing 3 houses down is always my first step, so we don't have to build more later on. We now place down a hunting lodge so people don't starve here. One mason's workshop can offer stone we will need for future buildings, and then a woodcutter's lodge will be needed for better buildings as well. Once all of this is fully built, Dorian tasks us with collecting fertilizer for the Ambrain farms. For this, we must enter a Mimatour hive and collect one of their eggs. A lot of these monsters specific to Caldera are known for not only being very strong, but for also not dropping much at all. Typically, you already have all the things you need in town, or chests can drop foods that keep you going. Well, Mimatours are the exception. Sometimes I would even stop the sample farming entirely just to hunt down a few. After my Greataxe run, I realized that raw alpha meat is probably the best food in Outward. Not only can you get 3 sandwiches from each piece, but the stuff grants enrage and healing. You take this before every single encounter if you have it, and Mimatours very commonly drop alpha meat. There oddly aren't very many of them in this nest. They suffer from a problem of being far too large. My shove that pushes over everything has literally 0 chances of missing, meaning super safe combat that gets ended quickly. The matriarch was guarding her eggs as usual. Surely it's possible to sneak one out if you're careful enough. But at the same time, we have to defeat her eventually for full completion. Might as well get it over with here and now. Extra cooldown greatly helps us for Caldera as most of our damage comes from Juggernaut. Its damage multiplier feels almost required for dealing with the wildlife of this region, and 10% cooldown makes all the difference. Not to mention, this makes Brace come back faster, which completely negates any damage, and sometimes makes me feel like using it should be illegal. 3 raw alpha meat. Told you they were awesome for the stuff. Then we carefully pack up 1 egg, leaving the rest to hatch in due time. For this to become fertilized though, we must soak it in the fumes produced in sulfuric caverns. The one place I was concerned about. Madees are not all that problematic if I get the jump on them, and Boros don't pose any threat if I can single them out. However, every living thing in this cave really enjoys bum rushing you as soon as a fight starts. Not all that uncommonly, you could face 2 Madees and 2 Boros, which for most builds is unwinnable. Being the prepared scout that I am, lightning should prevent fights from dragging on too long for that to happen. Fire also happens to be a nice tool against the floating jellies, not because it's their main weakness, but because the overtime damage can keep their health depleting even if you need to back up for a quick potion. Don't breathe in the toxic fumes as we sprint to safety. Oh wait, this isn't safe, there are nobles here. What a surprise, they don't like me. There are a few that do out here in this volcanic wasteland. No matter how patiently I waited for a counter, the trio just refused to swing at first. Plan B kicks into action as we run for the archer first. He's not all that easy to hit without running attacks, and they're all basically dead. Counter-Strike really doesn't seem all that powerful initially, but I've noticed it completely changes the tide of battle 9 times out of 10. Imagine your buddy's attack gets blocked, but all of a sudden it's reflected back at you. The absurdity of such a power move is just brilliant. With 3 traders dealt with, we soak the egg into a blue pool of liquid as it fertilizes in an instant. Dorian can now get the Ambrain farms growing again, so workers can stave off the heat anytime they like. Most of you that have seen my other hardcore runs already know the drill by now. We build the food store since it produces funds and is the most important building for your town. Then it's time to hunt down samples for a long time. More about that here a little later, as for now I decided to look for them while hunting down unique mini-bosses. When I try to do these full runs, my goals are pretty simple. Beat the faction quest, beat Rust and Vengeance, and complete the new Sirocco questline. After those are done, we hunt down all of the mini-bosses and roll through the arena bosses. There is actually one enemy that I never fight. That would be the Breath of Darkness. A few people have mentioned before how I keep missing this encounter, however, I specifically choose to not fight her on purpose. This is a unique ancient dweller deep in the Vault of Stone. She is basically a regular ancient dweller with more health and less color. A monster who is weaker than the She Who Speaks mini-boss in that same cave, making it kinda pointless. Not to mention, the quest to unlock her is not exactly great. It bugs out a lot, very rarely works on the go, and can take hours to complete. I love this game to death, but there's no way I'm doing that each and every run. Now, if I end up getting around to 100%ing Outward this year, there is an achievement to beat her, so then I will indeed have to show it off. But there you go. That would be why you never see the Breath of Darkness in these runs. Also, if you made it this far in the video, thanks. These are pretty long, but one heck of a good time for sure. Alright, with all that loot from Steambath Tunnels, we push over this Cali Gray hero. He wasn't even given a chance. Yes, his large axe can be swung faster than I think anything has ever been swung before. But when the shove comes out to play, the shove really comes out to play. Imagine this weapon with infused wind. At that point, there wouldn't even be any challenge to this challenge run. Oh yeah, I guess we haven't talked about the whole buffing enemies perk in a while. For smaller stuff, we obviously defeat them before the extra buffs mean anything. In Caldera, that's not the case anymore. Almost no enemy can be defeated in less than 3 hits. So everything I take on is hitting harder and becoming more difficult. Not unreasonably so, but right about now the difference is definitely noticeable. With one quartz elemental out of the equation, let's cover one of the biggest hurdles for this playthrough. Back in the Sulfuric Caverns, the Great Mother Mediz has returned. She only shows up after the nobles are defeated. Fight our way past Mediz after Mediz with some Boro on the side. Back through the gas we go for what would soon become a massive headache. Already before even going in, I knew this wasn't going to be pretty. The Grandmother has powers from both blue and yellow Mediz. That alone is a problem, but then there are also 2 additional blue jellies floating around to protect her, plus an additional yellow one too. I buffed my weapon with fire, assuming that burning would need to deal significant damage for me. As long as one of them is set ablaze, we can start to even those odds. As you can see, multiple jelly creatures can become one giant nightmare. Explosions of elemental magic go off under your feet in rapid fire. They've got pretty decent range on top of this, so running outside isn't even all that safe. After one scary laser, we can separate the yellow long enough to at least damage it. Lots of panic rolling, and still, none of them are dead. Usually a pure melee build like this one would have skills from the Warrior Monk or Wild Hunter skill tree. Predator Leap and Flash Onslaught specifically can even out fights quickly, as they usually tend to affect all enemies near you. Pure melee swings don't hit each Mediz, and our best advantage counters, I don't feel like risking an unpredictable magic attack. Not often do I try and tank damage to win fights. Heck, I still don't want to in this situation, but it was more or less impossible to avoid. Excited to have the Grandmother alone at last, she left into the toxic gas that damages me pretty quickly. Possibly a secret good thing, since rebuffing was now an option. Gosh darn it, these have never given me so much trouble. Around 4 health pots later, she got stuck on a rock, and that's when I made my move. Wow, I have never been so flustered after a mini-boss. This really got out of hand. Hey, 2 mole pig samples, that's a nice bonus, I'll say that much. City Hall will be our next construction project, because as soon as that's finished, Yosef will have more work for us. To improve these smelting furnaces, we will need to charge a Chalcedony stone. This can only be done dead center of an active volcano. Not exactly the perfect vacation spot, am I right? That extra pocket size comes in handy, as we make sure to have stamina, mana, and health reserves along with 1 varnish. The Chalcedony stone itself must be worn as a backpack. The thing weighs around 250 pounds, I think. Way too big for Zorn's hunting backpack, meaning we're sending this expedition expedition on limited resources. Across old Sirocco's slowly rising lava pool, we head over into the eldest brother volcano, and I try not to fight anything on my way down. We could, in theory, take out the gargoyle, tor crab, multiple mantises, and unique gastrocene, but let's focus on the task at hand, is what I should have said, but for some reason the lava snail looked like a mighty fine punching bag. The sucky part is he drops multiple samples I can use for construction. Each of them weighs 6 pounds though and won't fit in my pocket. Really did not think this one through. Sweep kick comes in clutch with its instant knockdown, and that's one glowing mollusk taken care of. I looked up cool sounding synonyms for snail, and sorry, there just aren't any. Even mollusk sounds pretty weird to me. In the very heart of one massive lava lake, the Red Lady has sent her minions to halt our progress. My usual plan of luring them over to the local gastrocene didn't work right away. Turns out one downside to extra stealth is aggro range might be tricky to keep a hold of at times. Of course, once all 3 targets swap to fighting the snail, we run into a new problem. Elemental horses actually spawn 3 fire projectiles per enemy near them. Now, both together throw up 12 homing missiles that fly out everywhere. You also have to be very careful, as gastrocenes have a nasty infliction called Plague that they can place on their prey. Don't get hit by the decay balls and you're fine, right? No, not really, because plague spreads like a literal plague. Get near any target infected and it contracts onto you. Funnily enough, you never really see this happen often. Probably because our semi-friendly snail got wholly blazed and is going down fast. They always leave the dirty work to me. To be fair, anything living inside active fire probably doesn't care much about my well-being. Placing the cold chunk of rock into this contraption, it sizzles into place, absorbing the heat around it. Moments later, we have one hot rock charged and ready for the journey back to town. With this boost to our production line, New Sirocco can finally handle special buildings with highly beneficial trades of work. The stockpile upgrade is first required so we can hold more wood and stone in our warehouse. The enchanting guild is extremely important as we still have 2 items left to enchant. Can't forget about that. The food store gets a free food upgrade which produces extra quote-unquote waste food we can collect every week. And for now, that is all the money I've got. Place down rare chromium shards into the enchanting pillar, then slot our Czar armor onto the runestone. We can buff our dark armor with shelter. This provides +2 barrier that decreases elemental damage taken by a flat rate. Not anything that will change the game for us, but every bit of defense helps. So funny story, this is about the time that I took a 1.5-month break from Outward altogether. We're completely dry on money, but still there are several building upgrades I need for some handy perks. Since Evangeline's progress quest can be frozen as long as we don't talk to her, we have infinite time to farm gold and samples. Anyone who's ever done this can tell you the process tends to be somewhat tedious, and I really didn't want to lose this run after so much work in the beginning, resulting in me procrastinating to instead play the Tales of Iron series. Hehe, well, joke's on me, because eventually I came back to wrap this business up and found we had a lot left to do. I've got about 3 hours of straight farming in the next recording, where everything went as planned except for 2 instances. I went into the Ark, since the lion apes there are pretty easy to take down this time around. Behind some bookcases here, we need to pull this lever, which will open up a special enemy later on. Well, the super easy Calligreys snuck up from below the ship and had me by the ropes. Taking multiple lightning blasts back to back is not good for your health. Thankfully, some good old roll spamming can get you to safety. I also was dropping my backpack at this point because even with Rogue Engineer, the thing was still slowing my dodge. Yeah, I also decided to build New Sirocco without Mafino's trading backpack. Outward constantly telling you you're overweight isn't exactly good for the psyche. That's as far as I'll go into it. Then, while walking over to the Friendly Immaculate, I might have accidentally fallen off an enormous cliffside while looking for a shortcut down. Count that as 1 shortcut location found, plus 1 newly contracted fear of heights, also found. Can we please be more careful from now on, man? After that, I made my way into the oil refinery to lower the oil level down. In order to do so, we will need to pull multiple levers that each grant access to the next access point. Several of these are protected by gargoyles, large stone structures that come to life when you approach them. They protect the Jinn or Genie, as it's believed that he created them with his very unique magic. You won't find very many of these things in Caldera, but when you do, there isn't much more challenging besides probably only Scarlet Emissaries. Each only has about 3 moves that they repeat. But what makes them so difficult isn't their moves, rather it's everything else about them. Being nearly immune to physical damage, you require spirit varnishes to gain an advantage. They also have extremely quick attacks that stagger even the most heavily armored warriors. And lastly, all gargoyles are immune to confusion, the only basic enemy in Outward to be immune to our confusion debuff. This makes them astronomically more dangerous than even mini-bosses or some of the bosses for that matter. Confusion is just kinda that good. Its main downside is that you often have a hard time finding something to inflict confusion in the first place. Obviously, not a problem with Greathammers, but all the more noticeable that we can't exploit it against these powerful constructs. Tor crabs, by the way, never really became a problem. They take forever to beat down, as I didn't have many dark varnishes, but stun locking each of them in the corner seemed to do the trick. The last lever also has a gargoyle protecting it, but with some environmental shenanigans, we can persuade 2 jellies to laser beam him for us. There you go, the Djinn is completely accessible. And oh crap, I forgot we don't even have the quest to fight him yet. Whoops. Got a little carried away down here. About time we go see how far our sample progress has gotten. This part was pretty awesome, as I had saved up quite a few rocks, plants, and mole pigs to make it look more exciting. 2 digested mana stones right off the bat. Then Evangeline decided to task me with finding the Djinn. Kind of in the middle of something important right now, lady. One thing of diamond dust isn't bad, I guess. Hey, flash moss, and bloodroot. Then I sent her out on an expedition to get me ectoplasm. Honestly, that was some pretty decent luck with all that. I've definitely seen a lot worse. Placing that ectoplasm into the enchantment pillar and slotting our giant hammer into the runestone, we can enchant it with Mole Pig Sai. Our weapon now deals 5 flat ethereal damage on top of its current damage. A huge bonus in the form of such a small number. Also, all of our equipment is fully enchanted now, which it's about time. Anyway, I guess we should get back to convincing the genie to move a contraption called the Ember Heart for us. This will help cool down New Sirocco and make it livable long term. Problem is, the Ember Heart is massive, and also its location is in the center of that volcano. The Djinn is the only one who can move it, but he doesn't exactly like people much. Luckily, I knew exactly where to find a noble who knows how to make the Djinn cooperate. With a special pendant in hand, the Djinn will be unable to teleport away upon seeing us. This noble, locked up in the moving arc, explodes into a scarlet emissary as soon as we rip the pendant off his neck. I sped through his dialogue fast enough that our buffs should get us through this. Should being the key word there. Blocking was keeping me close and as aggressive as possible, but right about now is when Sweep Kick decided to start acting up. The basic move is a sweep the leg a short distance in front of you. Well, as I have just found out, specific enemies have a very small hitbox where their legs should be. Scarlet emissaries, not even touching the ground at all, are nearly impossible to sweep down into the ground. Yes, it can be done, but so far we are 0 and 2, with only half of our health. He got confused as I ran away, plus I was smart enough to clear out all the Caligrays up here beforehand. Interestingly enough, you could probably run away from this guy and lose nothing. The quest shouldn't require his defeat, I wouldn't think. Funny to think that most combat in Outward is actually optional. One good movement speed build and you could sprint past anything you like. The Djinn is of course hiding down under his oil well, except we already drained away his protection. He needs beaten into submission before he will help us, and for this, I chose to use a dark varnish. Ethereal is my main imbue because our helmet's enchant offers 10% more to spirit damage, while the Djinn is one of the very few bosses highly resistant to ethereal. And not just high, I mean high, as in you won't really hurt him much at all with the stuff. He is, however, very much your typical mage, super spammy with elemental attacks, but doesn't do well with melee, and also has very little health. Hammer swing after hammer swing is all we need for this victory. Oh yeah, he doesn't like this much, making himself larger for phase 2. The elephant demon hybrid now relies on melee attacks followed by magic. Tricky to deal with, as there are limited windows for us to retaliate. Counters, of course, can solve this problem, but it would seem that in this form, he's immune to confusion. Oof, that kinda sucks. Relying on the shove works better than I would have expected, as he's stunned for as long as we really like. This won't deal much damage on our end though, leading to a longer encounter than usual. What's cool about this is, typically I run or dodge out of his range so magic blasts don't hit me. Well, you can actually just instead dodge them if you time it just as the explosion goes off. Some AoEs in this game linger, but apparently these don't. And now, there's really nothing he can do to stop me. 2 remarkable beatdowns, and now he's willing to move the Ember Heart. Such a nice guy. Surely it has nothing to do with me threatening his very life. Nah, he's just a big old softy. I decided to walk along the bridge for a nice view of this thing. Not really sure what this design is supposed to be outside of a lava heart, but if the mages can use it to cool down town, I can't really question it. New Sirocco can now handle even more specialized buildings, which means we can finally get the Enchantment Guild upgrade. Upon doing so, the head enchanter is able to offer us Infuse Mana, a skill that costs 35 mana to infuse your weapon with ethereal damage. You can only ever access this by building a specific building upgrade after taking Sorabor faction. It's a gift from Gregory that will let us use ethereal in every single combat scenario, since mana potions are a dime a dozen. I also remembered right about now that the arena should have something really nice in store for us, but after placing down the foundation, I realized once again that my monies are gone. While farming ornate chests, we could make our way to the Cali Great Arena. Speaking with the Colosseum Chief, he places us into combat with 2 ice enemies. The arena here is in 3 stages. 2 ice enemies, then 2 fire enemies, and lastly, a final round. You really don't have to complete this every run, as none of these guys are mini-bosses or anything. But it's a nice fun challenge, and on top of that, you're rewarded with an ornate chest after every victory. Don't get me wrong, they make you work for that loot. 2 Caldera enemies at one time is no picnic. Ice Strosines are particularly annoying with infinite explosions. Once we get a good footing though, she's a goner. 1 Tor Crab and 1 Mimitur. This one surprised me, because as I gunned down the Tor Crab to avoid his fire, multiple claw swipes left my health completely full and intact. There's definitely some damage being dealt there, but you need a microscope to really tell. What I forgot was, some of Caldera's foods actually grant you unique buffs, such as increased protection. That small extra physical defense was all I needed to take only 1 or 2 damage from any non-elemental source. But for the full win, we must engage a Caligray and a Gargoyle. Just bait the lion away before the other guy awakens, and what should be a legendary battle is kinda pitiful. Infused Mana is actually different from a regular Spirit Varnish. Our new version is either slightly better or slightly worse. I honestly could not tell which one it was. The one I'm using now is pretty much free, so we'll go with that one. How's that sound? After some time, we were able to finish the Gladiator Arena as well as upgrade it with the Weapon Master improvement. This allows us to fight against 5 different champions in a duel. Win and we are awarded a medal. 3 of these can buy us a new skill that originally I hadn't even thought of getting, but it could be good with the cooldown provided from our faction. I chickened out and chose the same warriors that I always choose. Guardian of the Marsh, then Wolfgang Warrior, and finally Masters of the Ocean. I would like to show off the other 2 to you guys, but problem is, this is hardcore. And at least one of the other 2 is probably the most difficult fight in the entire game. That is purposefully unfair. 3-on-1 in such a small arena, while all of them have really strong attacks. It's just been so long since I fought them that I don't really feel willing to risk our progress on them. Maybe one of these days. As of now, we wiped the floor with the so-called elite gladiators. The Wolfgang member definitely had on runic protection like myself. I mean, the guy's taking nothing for hit after hit. These mercs really are my worst nightmare, since they resist physical and ethereal from just their armor. Too bad for this guy though, he forgot to wear a helmet. Bro is missing half his extra stats. I mean, come on, are you even trying to beat me? For the last bout, we faced 3 Kazite bandits. Now this is a 3v1 situation as well, except all 3 are incredibly weak on purpose. The harder version is, let's call it, not so forgiving. Look at these idiots run around. And finally, one attacks as I miss the counter. Ugh, they got no class, I tell ya. No class at all. Lower your stance and swing wildly. Can't improve much on that tactic. We did come out of this one without even a scratch, so maybe, just maybe, I'll give the harder gladiators a shot next run. Probably not, but it's a nice thought anyway. With 3 medals in hand, we can purchase Crescendo, a skill exclusive to Greathammers that strikes very quickly in short range. It can be used every 3 seconds, and each hit will grant us what's called a Craze buff. For each stack of said buff, we have 5% more damage, but also negative 10% impact resist, which means with the max of 5 stacks, we can get plus 25% to all of our damage potential. Just don't get hit, because it takes away every stack. I was kind of on the fence about this at first, but turns out Crescendo completely breaks the game and skyrockets our damage through the stratosphere. I kid you not, this thing really got going after this. Before we can even test out our new power though, Chamber Lord Orville appears before us as the Crimson Avatar. We are to to abandon this new home and return to work under his evil rule. I don't think so, buddy. You're going down. This guy is really well hidden. At least according to Evangeline, but using my masterful detection skills, I was eventually able to sniff him out. The Scarlet Sanctuary, home of the Red Witch, and a sanctuary for those many minions who follow her. As of this point forward, I got into the habit of unequipping my helmet before each encounter. This Orichalcum armor of mine has an extra 30% mana cost tied to it. Since we need to swap over to the Lexicon anyway to activate its buff, we're already in our inventory, making this process more efficient. Obviously, you have to remember to re-equip the thing right after, but it's part of the buffing process. As for Crescendo, this thing surprised the heck out of me. One thing Greathammers lack is a fast attack. All of your swings are wide but very slow, and if you rely on combos, which you should because they hit like a freaking truck, well, those are even slower. Crescendo, on the other hand, is an instant right jab. You swing downwards with a low-powered slam that connects as long as you're hugging the enemy. On its own, I would say the downsides are too high. We basically can't block anything after using it. The range is kinda garbage, and you don't outright kill your enemy with it. All of this is irrelevant though, because that damage bonus carries over to our other attacks. 25% extra damage on Juggernaut is absolutely wild. Also, the impact is respectable. You can juggle a foe backwards if you're smart about it. The amount of openings we have in combat just doubled because of this one skill. Plus, we really didn't have to give up anything since we don't have a lot of abilities in our hotbar. This is a quality of life build over anything else after all. A lot of times we poke fun at the arena skills because you can't access them until almost the end of the game. Most people don't even get to try them out, since if you want the other passive upgrades, you have to lock yourself out of these entirely. While this Crescendo looked kinda meh from a distance, it really felt like a reward after all that buildup. Did it make this fiery and hate-filled realm any easier? Yes and no. Scarlet Emissaries are still different breeds entirely. Having an extra 5 ethereal on every swing from our enchant, now that made the difference. Less time in the fight, less time we risk annihilation. Running attacks, by the way, will give you the win. They're so necessary sometimes, I can't say that enough. As we reach the Crimson Avatar's lair, he warns us to leave him be. Should we choose to step through that door, it will be our undoing. Fair point you have there, sir, so instead I'm just gonna take a nap right here on your floor. Wake me when it's about time for your butt kicking. With every buff known among the 9 realms, we charge forward. The big problem with gargoyles is also a problem with our friend the Crimson Avatar. He is immune to confusion, leaving us with far fewer dull moments. In order to counteract his high HP, I figured it would probably make sense to start out with a Fire Varnish. This can apply burning after only 3 hits, and start working on him over time. Ethereal is just okay here, so instead I slotted Ice Varnishes to use next. Then we have the Panacea there, because it's a special concoction that can cure all ailments in the game. These are really handy because one of these attacks can petrify you. This is an instant kill, although I always forget which attack exactly inflicts it. Most of the puppet's arsenal are ancient magic attacks. Homing balls of fire, burning orbs that circle you, lasers, auras that siphon from underneath you. All of this is relatively easy to avoid using sound cues and general position. As long as you circle towards the center of where he spawns in orbs, you can negate their presence entirely. On top of this, the Crimson Avatar loves to use his staff as a melee weapon, and with the buff we provide him, that's probably the most dangerous part of all this. For now, we can eat through it, but once any of our buffs start running out, those will hurt. That kind of is the point of this boss. Most enemies can be beaten or overpowered before your buffs run out. I would probably say no boss fight takes longer than about 45 seconds if you prepare accordingly. Whereas, the average for this finale is probably 5 minutes, even longer when you make several mistakes. What I try to look out for are 2 separate attacks. Anytime he summons orbs, you can rush him from just the right angle to start wailing before he's able to move again. This is a huge benefit to our survival, although you need to be careful because it's not a lot of room to fit through. Then you want to bait out his siphon. After he uses the large AoE, he will not repeat that for at least some time. With pure melee, things are tricky. You can't rely on ranged attacks while dodging the easy moves. But with enough grit and determination, we can beat this guy down. Oh crap, wait a second, things are turning for the worst. One last health potion here. No, come on, why is he so laser happy at the moment? We are both 1 hit away from death. This could be the end for me. Okay, I got him. Woo! That was probably the most perfect fight I've ever seen until it went completely sideways into the worst. Note to self, don't get hit by magic 7 times in a row. Alright, with that excellent advice jotted down, we destroy the Scarlet Lady's connection to this land, freeing Caldera of her influence. New Sirocco is safe. We've technically beaten the game, and the courier delivers us a letter that congratulates us on behalf of Sorobor. Nicely done, if I do say so myself. Remember how we were stuck in the Antique Plateau for the first half of this run? And then for the second half, we were stuck in Caldera. Both DLCs are out of the way, but during all that, we never got a chance to fight nearly half the mini-bosses. This should be a lot of fun, going back through lower areas with a completely maxed out build. The Golden Matriarch was already taken out when we came to collect the Lightmender's Lexicon. While this enemy used to respawn, the devs did patch it so he doesn't anymore. Which, it's odd that they left the Mimitura Matriarch in Caldera to respawn infinitely, but not this one. Rusted Enforcer was, for the first time ever, not dumb enough to walk behind the gate before I got to him, and since he's no fan of ethereal magic, this was not his day. For some reason, attacking down made him fly up. Physics, man. That stuff is wild. Usually, you take on the Shell Horror outside just because he's the only one in this region. I definitely prefer it when he's not hiding back in all that corruption. At the Wind Tower, we can purchase Weather Tolerance. Yes, that would have been helpful in Caldera. No, I'm not sure how we ended up running around without it. In the Wine Cellar, we pour out a few bottles of Gaberry wine. This can summon the Ghost of Vinace, who I wasn't 100% sure if we could one-shot or not. Turns out, yes, we can. Freeze Arstone. Neat. Accursed Wendigo in his icy cave was unable to see us as we blasted down his elemental partner. As soon as we finished that little guy off, you know what happened next. Some elements were thrown at me, but I countered right back with the force of 1,000 suns. Outward has, by far, my favorite parry system. It really isn't even a close competition whatsoever. Glacial Taunosaur. He was a good practice round as I was a bit worried for the arena boss version we would take on in the swamp. Indeed, these dinos do pose somewhat of an issue. Their agile movement creates very awkward moments where my skills just sort of don't work. Crescendo at least makes up for this as enemies don't seem to input read it very well. What about Mad Captain's Bones? Surely he's close to a one-hit kill as well. Darn it, so close. Probably could have done it if my craze stacks were already built up beforehand. Guess we probably shouldn't complain about such good results, huh? The Troglodyte Archmage reminds me of how much I hate English. So it's archetype, but then I'm supposed to say Archmage. Makes about as much sense as how I just climbed onto the Trog as I crushed him. And to wrap up this region for now, we take a small boat near Cierzo's dock, returning to the very spot this journey began. Who should await our return but the Concealed Knight? One armor-clad knight in full Tsar armor, versus one physically immune berserker who has one piece of the same set. Two worlds collide as neither of us can get the upper hand. For tension's sake, that line sounds pretty cool, but it couldn't be further from the truth. My evil twin can't stand up for more than a second, let alone begin to fight back. To give him his well-deserved credit, he took this beating like a champ. I think it would have been pretty cool if this knight wielded a different weapon every game. Or maybe he could have swapped anytime during the fight. Tsar shields are crazy good, but the sword seems rather easy to predict by now. And with that, we return to our lighthouse after months of adventuring. One good night of sleep, and we'll get back to it in the morning. In the Hallowed Marsh, we need to make our way into the Ziggurat. Several jade dogs prowl around the entrance, and talk about a glow-up. While the telekinetic sword dogs were problems early on, they can go down in just 2 hits now. I was able to manufacture this once again on the ramp, basically doing the exact same moves. For the third dog, Juggernaut wasn't quite ready, so instead witness a perfect combo executed elegantly. The Jade Acolytes inside were nowhere near ready for me. One of them went down as soon as we engaged, while the other, he tried his best. Sadly, his best only made me yawn, if even that. The last green boy down this way is deep into corruption. Not that the green fumes bother me much, since doing the Sorobor faction gave me way too many curatives, it's kind of absurd. Pull the lever here, and then it's on to the other side where we dismantle a minor army. The theory here is that the Jade Acolytes had worked with Sorobor back in the day while trying to undermine Alat. Some green golem heads are seen in the Desert Electric Lab, while several golem types of Harmattan can be found here. I just wonder if the Jade Lich himself knew about these dealings. With the second lever pulled, we can ride a long elevator down to the Wizard of Decay. For this, I made sure to equip both Acolyte armor pieces, giving us around 80 or 90 resistance. I try not to fight him without high decay defense because he can quickly overwhelm you even if you stay aggressive. He's probably the only boss who actively tries to back up 24/7. Just hitting him can be all the struggle. Before we started, I knew Juggernaut would be tough to hit, and missing that means we need to run even more. Actually, all our skills are kinda useless because most are counters and you can't really counter any of the green magic. I guess you could, but there's no way it would affect him. One lightning varnish puts him in his place as we collect the full Jade Lich armor that will be highly beneficial, mainly because now we can swap on and off the helmet for negative 25% mana cost before casting our spells. It weighs almost nothing, so we can fit it in both our pocket or our bag. The helmet also helps out greatly as we enter the Jade Quarry. With poison water everywhere, we can walk through mostly unharmed. There's dinos and there's trogs, but I don't quite see my target just yet. Where's the guy at? I usually find him by now. Oh look, there he is. The annoying troglodyte. Poor guy got stuck pinned to a nearby wall. No chance to run away for you, and his loot left much to be desirable. We're pretty close to his palace, so might as well go visit the Lightmender while we're at it. All the way back to finish what we started. Did you know you can block 6 lightning balls with 1 brace? Well, don't try it, because I have missed this timing before, and it's an instant death. Worked out for me this time, as he dwindles away before me. For some reason, he kept throwing out lightning on repeat, even though I was in melee range. This should force him to switch, but for whatever reason, he wasn't. And the early dodge was roll catching me every single time. You're not really ever gonna have time to heal up unless he gets staggered, which is the scary thought. No need to worry, it didn't come to that. We're now dropped the Gold Lich armor set. Both the helmet and boots will be needed for arena bosses. In general, both Lich helmets are great to keep on person at all times. Instant 30 resist to either decay or lightning is something you cannot underplay. In a separate ziggurat, the Altered Gargoyle stares me down. There's also a Taunosaur who was helping me out, until I may have clipped him just barely, and now he's on me. Just my luck, I tell ya. Ha! Why do I even care? He was never a problem to begin with, was he? Not your everyday gargoyle, this one. Although he's still no match for me. Found another giant. We're currently on our way to the Stegosaur Den. It's in the center swamp underneath the invisible death bridge we walked across earlier. You have to be careful in this area as alpha Taunosaurs can be seen lurking everywhere. Often vines and just the region's general color can hide them from sight if you're merely strolling along. Taunosaurs are tough enough as it is, but the alphas, they always felt more menacing to me. They're almost the size of an immaculate, with twice the teeth. Probably the closest thing you get to Monster Hunter in this world. Like, at what point does this stop being a dinosaur and just straight up becomes a full-on dragon? All he's missing is wings, and he'd probably be the main character. I try my best to get clean clips for you guys. For the life of me, the Razorhorn Stegosaur would not cooperate. Staying alive past only one of my hits is bad enough as it is. Now he's gone and fallen into the water, where my camera won't survive. Hallowed Marsh is looking rather empty after this excursion. Let's move over to Enmerker Forest. Had to purchase the house for 500 silver to access my treasure hoard. Then it's into the fiery/icy tunnels to hunt down the first cannibal. Deep into his icy prison, there's not a lot I have to say about him. Yeah, those claws will cut deep. True, the icy vortex will freeze you to the bone, but I'm thinking the whole challenge aspect to this Greathammer only comes into play if you get hit. Just a theory, but when I managed to play really well and take no damage, the fights were really easy. I wonder why that is, huh? Tyrant of the Hive, you have met your match. This, my friends, is what peak outward gameplay looks like. Minimal dodging, skills are activated one after the other, keeping the boss on his toes, and he's vulnerable at all times. Block each and every swing, deal big damage. Gosh, I love this freaking game! Outward 2 really cannot come soon enough. If anything is going to be our undoing, it's the Royal Manticore. The worst part about this fight is all her glowing fumes emitting right into your eyes. When she starts tail spinning, I almost go blind for seconds at a time. Manticores can always be lengthy battles to endure. You really want to play defensive, only getting in one hit after they claw, bite, or tail you. Good news though, staying in close will prevent her from throwing poison needles your way. It's not a 100% guarantee, but I was able to avoid that altogether for once, which is a blessing to be sure. There you have one of the most treacherous predators bonked and gone. Never thought I'd see this day. Probably the first full run of Outward I've completed since Definitive Edition came out, where I didn't make use of horror weapons. They sell for so much, it's almost a no-brainer strategy. But after the 100 gold puzzle, we never came back through for it. Not even once. This means that we actually get to fight the Vile Illuminator legit. He hides back in the corrupted halls, protected by Scourge healers. Too bad for him, those healers are dead, and he's next. Why did he just die that quickly? One hit felt like decent damage, but the next one just rocked him. Oh, that's kind of funny. I have 5 stacks of craze right now. Poor bugger, he really didn't deserve to get whacked like that. There are 2 more threats hiding in this region, both of which are underneath the city of Berg. The Crusher can be found in an old cave thought to be uninhabited. I may have forgot to put my helmet back on, and man, this has to be the coolest thing I've ever done. 2 juggernauts, 2 hammers, and 2 like mines. As much as I respect a man's craft, this cave isn't big enough for 2 bonkers. At last, in the necropolis, we are in search of an ancestral general. Who knew stealth plus giant hammer would make my life so easy? All the ghosts and little skeletons fall over, leaving 1 undead commander in charge. 2 strikes, and you're out. I would have liked to give him the traditional 3, but no shot he would have lasted that long. Okay, we're looking pretty good so far. 4 total regions free of monsters at last. Only 2 more to go. I've never found the Abrasar mini-bosses to be particularly challenging. Most of them have really low health, like this last Acolyte here. He does have several decay magics that can interrupt your moves, but overall you should be able to end him before too much happens. Luke the Pearlsant resides in Old Levant, and he was kind of fun this time around. As soon as I enter this crumbling castle, 6 different sets of bandit groups charge my location. Guess we're battling an entire army all by ourselves. You might have already noticed, but when combat gets really heated and I'm forced to dodge a lot, the blood from my hammer goes flying around the screen. I can't think of any reason this weapon would even have bloodstains on it. Although, if you think about it, running around a world where giant monsters roam around, the blood would attract attention and thus incite a challenge. On top of the whole, here's some extra stats for you mechanic. Not as crazy of a challenge as you would expect from the description. Yes, I built around it to help us out, but the real saving grace is they designed it all around a Greathammer. These specific weapons are truly perfect. With very little leaving you open, mere blocks and staggers keep you in better safety than even a shield could provide. 1 human army razed to the ground. Next up is the Executioner Bug. I had to walk all the way around, since even though you can reach this cave from I think 4 different locations, 3 of them are locked up or blocked by higher water levels. After those are lowered, he instantly became a problem. Ignore my runic lantern bouncing off that reflective water there. Instead, focus on my incredible counter that whiffs. Yeah, I forgot how fast bugs can attack with almost no wind-up whatsoever. With the clock racing, we rush him down before extreme poison can whittle away our health. That's when a mantis shrimp pulled out his lightning sniper. He got what was coming to him. Well, we can't forget about the Compass Guardian, probably the most elite mini-boss in Outward. Also protected by multiple other golems, and found dead center of these scorching sand dunes. Sword golems tend to be one of the most difficult opponents to master. There are several reasons for this, like their great speed, high impact on a 3-hit combo, plus only ethereal deals much damage to them. But the real trick is mastering their counterattack. All sword golems, including this elite, have what I will call a reaction attack. 1 second after they're hit, or you get too far away from them, this sprinting spin is set in motion. It can rip you to pieces, even if you thought you had the upper hand. Staying in close prevents this attack more often since they can't sprint to get it going. But even still, they can get it off at times. Fight enough of them and you learn to more or less see it coming. But until then, blocking even when you don't have to is a simple band-aid fix. Don't fight on stairs, and try to be aggressive. She works like a charm every time. Bloody Alexis is under Levant, which we went through another giant to get to. 2 desert giant monks in 1 playthrough. If only they had let us acquire their mask. Boy, would I love to have a porcelain giant mask. Then again, it would probably go into storage with like 90% of my findings. But the fashion potential is at least there. Knock a witch off the cliff, bonk some bandit across the hall. Avoid fighting on the narrow walkways, as that is a sad death you will never fully mentally recover from. Heading towards the Sandrose Cave, we can knock another bandit high into the sky. Probably the best performance we've seen yet. Then it's us against a burning shell horror. Usually these tanks like to be aggressive, yet even still, this was a new one. After a few seconds, I almost got staggered backwards. Even as prepared as I was, his multi-combo was too consistent. Sweep Kick saves the day with not one, but 2 full knockdowns. The thing might not work against every monster, but when it does, your enemy doesn't stand a chance. Virulent Hive Man hides in the very bottom section of the undead nest. These bee-like creatures burrow into the dead, reanimating them for their own twisted use. What I find odd is this hive is under attack when we first enter. Many different bugs are making their way in. No chance this would be allowed to happen if the bigger hive lords were around. One would think that protecting the hive would be their only purpose. Apparently not though, as with minimal effort, the toxic spawn is eradicated. Caldera has very few opponents left, considering we had to be there for quite some time already. However, there is the cracked gargoyle. The Ark simply refused to move for me when I set up plant tents and slept for several days. It seems like sleeping in a different plant tent somewhere else causes the game to reload the Ark's cycle if it gets stuck. There's also a nice spot behind the oil refinery where you can see every single docking station. That helped me move it over to the underside loading docks. Inside, we can pull one lever to activate elevators down here. After sneaking past an active gargoyle, we can pull another lever to unlock the secret mini-boss. My least favorite enemy to access, but at least it didn't take forever this time. The top half of this arc has 3 gargoyles protecting what was once the Djinn's throne. A lot of people were unhappy with the fact that you can't drive this arc. Imagine if after defeating everything inside, you could use it to dock around the map. This would cut down massive sections of walking through Caldera, making samples easy to farm, and overall just kind of be a fun mechanic. Didn't happen, of course, but the idea is there. The cracked gargoyle is now let out of his cage. He's guarding what's probably my all-time favorite item in Outward. It's a greathammer that inflicts Aether Bomb, something I like to call the magical nuke weapon. Basically, it inflicts a status that explodes after 15 seconds. The damage is insane, and the effect looks incredible. Sadly, we can't use it because Challenger Greathammer isn't written on the side. A bummer indeed, though it wouldn't help us where we're going next. Entering the most secret and forgotten cave in RI, Vault of Stone. Letting out the dangerous creatures caged inside, it's time to fight Ancient Dwellers. There's 4 of them down here at the moment. With Petrification, Ethereal Weakening, and Magic Homing Balls, you could see why I saved them for last. As per usual, Confusion makes them mostly harmless, as long as we stay active and time things perfectly. Hallways can be used to avoid ranged attacks, at least if you're quick enough. While lightning is the better element, I only had fire on me. Sort of the default varnish that always works, unless something is made of fire. The overtime damage is huge, although it could be way better if you specifically build around it. Alas, it is time to face the She Who Speaks, a female demon of great magical power. Stealth for the win, baby! I can't believe how often I ended up sneaking behind things. Typically, you think dagger assassin when playing stealth, but instead I give you the ninja bonking machine that is myself. Juggernaut carries us through without much to speak of. A skill that can be used every 20 seconds, has plus 100 impact, 3 times damage multiplier, and inflicts confusion. Bro, this weapon buffs the enemy because if they didn't get any extra help, they wouldn't even stand a chance. No more liches, no more monsters, no more humans, undead, or mechanical golems threatening the people of this world. At least until Outward 2, that is. But this video wasn't long enough already. Several arena bosses await to test our build's full potential. Trog Queen is our first opponent, as certain other arena bosses still terrify me down to my core. The Jade Lich helmet made a return, as with it we get our max decay resistance, and after her minions go down, it's a question of who has the bigger stick. You'll notice for each of these fights that I went all out on the buffs. That's about as close to max buffs as you can get in Outward, ranging from stamina regen, extra defense, more impact, and damage bonuses as well. A single lightning varnish put this cave troll in her place, giving us a pretty good head start. Fitting, as the Brand Squire would not play so nicely. We're dealing with a couple problematic mechanics. Number 1 being that the Squire is possibly the single most nimble enemy we will face. He input reads every other second and can quickly back out from our reach. With hammers being as slow as they are, we don't have any way to consistently hit him. Then you also must remember that Perfect Strike, or the fast dash swipe he does, is set to deal raw damage. damage. This is impossible to resist with armor or potions. My plan was to poison him since all humans are weak to green damage. Joke's on me, however, as dark varnishes don't actually inflict poison. You need a separate poison varnish because decay's just weird like that. The only possible option left is for us to rely on running attacks. They're far safer and tend to be dodged less. The downside is very poor damage on our side. Or I guess we could eat hit after hit while swinging wildly, but that isn't very safe. Luckily, we have health potions, but other than that, he's a complete mess who almost beat us at a game of tag. Elite Mantis Shrimp is completely neutralized by confusion, with the most avoidable attacks among the bosses. I did, however, equip the Gold Lich Mask just in case things went his way. Again, both Lich helmets have 30 resist to decay or lightning. With just these two items, you can keep 98% of your build, use more magic skills, and take many more risks in combat. With his immense weakness to cold, I probably didn't need the extra protection. Then again, it's hardcore. If you aren't being as cautious as possible, you probably had your character deleted already. Pretty fun fight all around. Most of it looks as if I'm hitting a punching bag, since he's got loads of health and falls over constantly. Usually I would wait on Endmerker bosses since they're all three pretty tough. This was a different case than usual because we can use our armor to our advantage. Swapping to Gold Lich boots and one Jade Lich mask, we can resist both Lich's power. Now, the Jade Lich armor is nerfed compared to the Gold Lich stuff, as the Light Mender is quite a bit stronger. I believe even according to the lore, he's much more dangerous. With this, all Jade Lich armor comes with a negative lightning resistance. I'm pretty sure this is so you can't wear his armor to completely embarrass his counterpart. Well, it turns out with a green helmet and golden boots, we get 30 decay and yet still 10 lightning. It is important we gun down the Light Mender as his attacks will affect us the most. This is usually our tactic anyway, as his attacks can't be avoided with mere strafing. Once again, I got into trouble as my dodges against lightning balls were way too early. Something I clearly need to work on in any future runs, as this was just happening too often for coincidence's sake. Burning actually isn't very good here, but because both enemies are the exact opposite element, I couldn't easily use anything else. Possibly this is the only completely unfair fight Outward ever throws at you. It's one of the very few times they just say, yeah, this is gonna suck, so prepare correctly or die. In co-op, the fight can be a little more balanced as 2v2 lets you split them apart. Instead, we rely on skill, good armor, and some minor amounts of luck to see both defeated. Nice to have infused mana on our hotbar, just in case fights go too long. We walk over to the Cabal Wind Temple, poison ourselves, and fight the Dreamer Immaculate. Because there's no easy way to cure poison that's required to enter this fight, I wore the Jade Helmet again. Not only are we easily able to swap from fire to ethereal for a faster fight, but he's extremely weak to our main purple damage. The thing you usually struggle with is stamina. Even if he stays knocked on the ground unable to attack, you will always run out of stamina before his health is out. Several of the arena bosses have gigantic health spikes, mostly ones that don't throw any other gimmicks at you like extra enemies or some random projectile attacks. This is why I always tell people stamina is king in Outward. Run out of health, you could probably still play as long as you don't get hit again. Run out of mana, you can keep going with melee attacks. But run out of stamina and no actions can be performed to prevent incoming damage. As we went into the backpack, rogue engineer, warrior monk, and luxury tent, we shouldn't have any problems. 1 or 2 stamina potions in your pocket is never bad, just in case, since they fully refill stamina instantly. Immaculates still frustrate you by blocking your most useful attacks at the last second, but it's nothing a little perseverance can't solve. Can you guess how we dealt with the Burning Man? The goal is to find some way to become immune to fire. Well, this time around is unique, as we are wearing a Zar chestplate. With 40 innate fire defense on it, we can throw on our buffs and 1 Gold Lich helmet for complete immunity. After that, life is simple. Take out the horses so they can't interrupt your other attacks, then at least try and pretend you care about avoiding fire blasts while you beat him over the head with a cold meteor. Something interesting I noticed was that the craze buff we can gain from Crescendo is unaffected by status. Usually any damage you take will remove the stacks, but it seems like already being burnt as you gain them won't get rid of them. Heck, even several of his other flamethrowers that just barely grazed me didn't remove them. So sucks to be a burnt soul serving the Red Lady, I guess. Easy win, and another glorious moment for Juggernaut. Hallowed Marsh is where I headed, as the bosses here can give me an easier time, I hope. Elite Priest High Monk did not have the best of times. I think when you start to feel bad for the boss, it's probably time to admit you've done something right. Commentary for some of the best voiceover work ever recorded on this channel. There are standards here, folks, and it's my job to meet the bare minimum requirements. Ta-da! The giant topples over. What I want to talk about are the 3 giants. These are 3 icy behemoths who each have health based around their size. Small has low health, big has the most health. You get the idea. With fire, we can hurt all of them at once, after actually hitting them, that is. And even with 20% more physical damage added into their arsenal, I was completely immune. I made sure to take a Gadberry wine, increasing our physical defense just enough to be 100%. So no matter how much physical damage the giants are able to deal, it will never get through my defense. I don't know, it's just one of those funny outward moments, where you completely outplayed the RPG elements in the game meant to challenge you. Sometimes the most fun you can have is not in playing the game correctly. Sometimes the most fun you can have comes from exploiting every last mechanic available to benefit your playstyle. The 3 Stooges lose hope one after the other. Sadly, my hammer was damaged, as taking too many hits does have its downsides. Still isn't enough to stop me from toppling the 2nd, and finally the 3rd. Surely the elite Taunosaur will give us a legendary battle we so desperately seek. Nah, because with the Gold Lich helmet, his fire means nothing. And while his bleed usually scares me, we can throw in some Panacea to our hotbar. The green drink instantly cures any status, so in theory, it should cure bleed, if we happen to get inflicted with it, which works exactly as planned about halfway through. I'll be honest, his backward movements do remind me of the Brand Squire. Jumping backwards is always tricky to deal with, no matter what you're facing. Honestly, this dino has me convinced that no build makes him a joke. If you somehow manage to find one that does, hit me up in the comments. The scaly dragon can be seen in my very nightmares, and it really needs to stop. Nice, so far we're on a really good track as we make the trip to Harmattan. Immaculate's bird is always one tough cookie. For those who don't know, this boss has the lowest health of probably any boss in the game, but he also has a near immunity to all damage types. You can bypass the difficulty with a status called Elemental Vulnerability. That reduces enemy defenses to elemental damage by 25%. However, there is no way to inflict this without using something that isn't a Challenger Greathammer. Instead, we beat on him for around 1.5 minutes. With 3 moves he likes to repeat, the dodges were easy to read. Much smoother than the Mad Lad has been for me in the past. Elite Buzu is my favorite, not for the fight itself, but since you need to interact with a ring of flowers to enter. Like, the circle is so obviously out of place, you have to assume something happens here. The Purple Buffalo himself was largely uneventful, not the most complex enemy type to begin with. The arena is pretty simple too. You can't stand in most of it, as once you enter the flowers, all of your vision drops to 0. Staying in the middle isn't overly difficult, leaving me almost untouched for the whole encounter. A wild animal is a wild animal. Flashy moves and more health don't do a whole lot to change that. Time for one of the best fights, Elite Sublime Shell. The whole idea behind Sublime Shells was to give us something that resembled gauntlet weapons. With the Sauroborians DLC, fist weapons were introduced that acted much like your standard boxing moveset. This same DLC added in the Sublime Shells that share a similar moveset. They deal crazy high amounts of impact and like to swing their arms around as if they were giant tree trunks. I don't have anything explaining the laser attack, but I can rehash my disappointment for them not giving the player one. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. Nah, not really, as you can have so much fun combating these giant cretins. There were quite a few cool moments as we both weaved in and out of each other's power moves. Challenger Greathammer is definitely not something anyone would recommend to a newer player. I mean, if you don't prepare or know enemy attacks very well, that extra boost for them is going to be a real challenge. But for most players, probably like 60 hours in, you could make this work without much hassle. The only thing really holding it back from being exceptional is the attack speed. 1 is really usable, but just not the same as 1.1, even though such a difference sounds negligible at best. Really quick, we need to switch into preparation mode for a few seconds. Buying the Levant house grants access to my money and other resources. If we pay Pigeon Eye in the slums, he will unlock access to the smuggler who will sell rare gear. We purchase wolf plate armor from her. One of the ornate chests around this region had a wolf sword, but that's not exactly what we're looking for. Darn, this one doesn't have anything useful either. Aha, here we go, 1 wolf plate helm. We throw on both new wolf items we acquired for much higher ethereal resistance. We need these because triple crescent sharks is no joke of a fight. Not only are their purple mine traps very tricky to avoid, but they will reduce your elemental resistance after only a few seconds with them. Their movement also makes each shark difficult to hit. So here's the play. Become immune to both their damage types, well, at least as close as we can get anyway. Throw on a poison varnish so over time damage clocks in for us as soon as possible. Make sure to apply all 3 with the poison before swapping into a fire varnish. Now apply the burning and do your best to stay alive. Juggernaut greatly helps to keep our footing so we don't have to be in here long. Honestly, it still surprises me how easy these 3 goobers can be. None of their bites have much weight behind them, and as long as you keep your eye on the prize, the traps can be avoided 8 times out of 10. Hammerheads? 0. Big old hammer? 3. Not exactly their best day, if you ask me. Down at the docked ship, we can enter into combat with the elite beast golem. And I know, we've completely wiped the floor with several arena bosses by this point. But of all of them, this metal dog would be our best performance. His 2 big weaknesses are low impact resistance and spirit damage. Since we have overwhelming stance for each of our hits, plus confusion, plus purple infusion on our weapon, he couldn't do a thing. One normal swing would knock him backwards, unable to attack for the entire fight. When I used to play Outward, I would just go through the game, messing with any items and enemies I felt like. Now with these hardcore runs, I'm more or less forced to master a particular playstyle. I'm with whatever said weapon for so long, combating every type of monster and stringing together skills as best as I can. Combat feels like a dance, or a calculated sequence. There really is nothing quite like it, and while I wouldn't recommend hardcore to everyone, there's something to be said about mastering the different weapon types. My jaw will drop if we ever manage to beat just how good Greathammers feel. But you never know. As much as I like dogs, metal versions are mere imposters, and it's our job to shut them down. Calixa is another 50-50 boss for me. She could be really easy, but something was telling me that probably would not be the case. We recently found out she can be simplified by using magic. Specifically, sigil stacking took her down in around 20 or 30 seconds flat. Kind of insane. This is because she has 0 resistance to any element with very high physical and impact resist. To be frank, she's a perfect counter to my only playstyle. Using a raw enchant would never be bad, but I think with our spirit varnish and ethereal enchant, we should get through this. One interesting aspect of heavy weapons I've noticed is they're not all created equal. With greataxes, for example, you can get some of the highest melee damage possible. Their combos are also your biggest tool. However, greataxes have the downside of a less than desirable moveset. Often when enemies get staggered, they will fall back out of your range, making combos harder to connect and often placing you out of position. Greathammers never seem to do this. Not once during this entire playthrough did I constantly miss my strikes, as the reach and positioning are perfect. All except for against Calixa. For whatever reason, she herself just falls back much further than most bosses. Luckily, this doesn't happen that often, but it seems because she's using a shield, her slight backing up can trip you up. Sweep Kick was my most valuable tool, as it was easy to hit her when she went down. As far as I can tell, Calixa never input reads to dodge away like the Brand Squire will. She got her hits in and took up several minutes of my time. But in the end, Big Hammer competing against Bigger Hammer only ever had one outcome. We send the deity back to heaven with a long drive out to right field. Out to Caldera for everyone's favorite arena bosses. Well, favorite meaning hardest in this case. Grandmother is pretty fun, since she's one of the more unique boss fights thrown at you. Most others are a larger version of something you fight in the base game. But for Grandmother, we're fighting our own grandmother, as she revives 2 of her elite warriors, slowly draining away her life. It's cool because in my experience, most gank fights aren't mechanically the best things ever. It's much harder to balance multiple things attacking you at once, compared to just a single target. For the most part, each human offsets their attacks, so you could focus down both without much hassle. Honestly, I always rush down the mage, since she has more troublesome attacks. The halberd wielder will rarely move in, as he loves to set up traps or throw grenades that take their time to explode. Nothing really hurt me much until the very end. Somehow with just the mage left, she was targeting down lightning right over my head. How the heck she timed that so perfectly, one can only imagine. What the heck, man, she really had me running in circles for like no reason at all. The elite Tor Crab was heavily guarded, probably more than ever before, with ghosts, horses, and not 1 but 2 Scarlet Emissaries standing near his arena. All can be avoided, but I thought it would be good measure if we removed the one dwelling within this cave. What sucks about this crab is he loves to cover the area directly in front of him with stationary explosions. If you try to attack, well, you'll be blown to bits. Weirdly, being more aggressive is the solution, as he spreads these out only when you aren't in melee range. Or at least he uses his magic less often, since occasionally he will switch things up. As long as you back away, wait for him to crawl out of the danger zone, then continue your assault, there's not much left you need to worry about. The prehistoric crab-turtle amalgamation is no more. Hey, only 2 monsters left. But oh boy, are they the worst of the worst. 3 gargoyles await us down below New Sirocco. We fight a warrior, then a mage, and finally an alchemist. Tank, not really sure what he is, but he's the last one who gets a magical shield. There you go. Warrior is up first as each attacks in succession. I fail rather spectacularly right off the bat. Only about 25% of my HP remaining, you can at least get back up for an easy heal. The sheer amount of attacks he can dish out is just mind-blowing. Only giving me time for 1 strike in between those disgusting combos, my confidence was completely shaken. Imagine all this time spent getting to the last 2 bosses, and then my character is deleted. Not the happiest thought I've had, so let's try and not let that happen if we can. Patience allows me several really solid hits, moving us on to fight the mage. With careful placement, you can kill the gargoyle far enough away that the next one doesn't engage you. We completely rebuff and get back to it. This step is crucial. With how long each individual gargoyle takes, you will run out of buffs before the second one is finished. And as you already saw, one mistake can cost us everything, even with all these stat increases. You can treat the mage more like a normal gargoyle. Their attack strings are far shorter, allowing us to actually stay in close with blocks. This doesn't entirely prevent magic from being activated, but it still greatly reduces the chances of him using it. Crescendo really shined, since it's our fastest possible attack, making it easy to activate in and out of blocks without risking too much. Mage is much more fair. I quite enjoy fighting him, actually. Much more than the first construct, let me tell you. But the hardest gargoyle usually tends to be this one here. With our 3rd set of buffs, we beat him down in seconds? This is a new one. Typically, this 3rd version will summon a bubble that makes him nearly immune. You then need to break the bubble shield, hoping he doesn't just simply resummon it right after. For some bit of luck on my end, he decided to never use this overpowered trump card. If I had to guess, I would say we staggered him so much we were able to loop his melee attacks. So he would try the bubble after, but he never actually got the chance to use it. It's also possible that more aggression can prevent this altogether. All I know is, that's a win, and I'm pretty happy about it. But of course, it's time to re-enter the Vault of Stone. It's time to face the one challenge where my hammer's drawbacks actually will be a huge problem. It's time for the Elite Crimson Avatar. In order to even enter this fight, we have to gain a sleeping debuff that decreases our physical resistance by 35%. And if you remember, we came really close to losing this run against his weaker self. Well, about that, I'm starting to think that this stronger version is easier than the original, which makes no sense since he gets several new attacks and usually takes longer to defeat. But let me explain. First off, fire damage is huge. Against the normal version, you deal 40% less fire damage due to him being a puppet of the Scarlet Lady. All her minions have crazy fire resistance. But this version is swapped around a bit to be weak to fire, by 20%. So fire varnishes become a massive tool against him for high damage. Against the normal one, he kept using Siphon that would push us back, and then he would keep me away with large slow-moving orbs. Whereas this version loves to use his laser. And what's cool about the laser is if you position yourself perfectly, you can actually attack him while it never hits you. It is very much possible that I had a lucky fight with him this time around, because I imagine other times he uses the laser less and instead throws out decay balls. Those are super rare from my experience, but the tracking is so tight you can't avoid them unless at a full sprint sideways. Panacea is once again nice, just in case Burning, Holy Blaze, Panic, or Aether Bomb gets on you. Shoves knock him back in only 2 hits. That alone adds a whole lot to our side of the table. His melee swipes aren't that hard to dodge. Mostly I block them since their reach is slightly longer than you would think. I always get a bit shaky towards the end since our 8 rows of buffs turn into 2, while the boss has only gotten more powerful. The battle was grueling. My concentration was maxed out. Stress levels through the roof. But after all is said and done, the Challenger Greathammer has come out on top. With no opponent left to challenge us, we make the long walk back to Sirocco, through the scorching volcanic rocks of Caldera, across the dense forest of Enmerker, into the snowy grassland that is Chersonese. We revel in how cool Zar armor looks for a moment before depositing every last item into our stash. It's been fun, people, but one last look at this small village is all we get. Ragnar the Great heads to bed with only one thought on his mind. When the heck is Outward 2 coming out, so I can big hammer bonk everything all over again? And there you go, everyone. The developers designed this Challenger hammer to no doubt challenge us players. What we never realized is they also made it a monster hunting tool of destruction. I was pretty excited to do a literal challenge run for Outward, considering the name and all. Also, I'm a huge hammer fan, if you couldn't tell by now. So much time was spent shaping these into a really solid melee weapon that I have a hard time moving to other builds. Oh, and hey, we have officially covered the full story of Outward, as this is the fourth and final faction quest we needed to cover. Next up will likely be a Merton run, for those who know what that is, but I have discovered a way to make it possibly crazy good. Stay tuned for that, enjoy the other games I'm 100%ing in the meantime, and that is about all I got, folks. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.